Good afternoon. Welcome to a joint work session of the Education and Culture, Planning, Housing and Parks, and Health and Human Services Committee. I'm the Council Vice President and Chair of the Education and Culture Committee. This is such an important topic and such an interconnected topic. You have three committees here, really happy that we're here to dig into making sure every one of our young people has access to a high quality out of school time experience. We know we're not there, but we want to get there. And this is, I think, a very appropriate final committee meeting for our colleague, Councilmember Alvarez, who will do all the work that we assigned today. But will be a part at the rec department as a partner in making sure that our students continue to have great experiences. You'll hear from him and my co-chair Friedson as well momentarily. Just wanted to give a little recap and then kind of set some expectations. So we met in April of last year, a joint EC PHP committee, and we requested follow-up on comprehensive updates on the county's out-of-school time strategic plan process. I don't think I'll be surprising anyone by saying that was a frustrating meeting, and we didn't get the answers we wanted. I think it underscored some of the challenges in connecting a lot of people who are involved in our kids when they're out of school. And so we know we're still not where we want to be today, right? And there's still some critical pieces that are outstanding that we're going to talk about. The plan itself, the MOU that is still yet to be signed, which we will talk about and hear the latest on that, and just overall systems-wide coordination. I want to say I know that everyone here wants this to be better. I know that. But we have to set ourselves up with the right tools, resources, authority, coordination to do it. And so we're going to probably have some tough questions here and some back and forth. But I just want to set the tone that from my perspective, I know it's people are trying, but we're going to have to do better because our kids really need it. And we're entering a time when we're seeing a federal retrenchment, which is going to make the work even harder. But also more important. So I want to thank our great staff for the really amazing packet, Ms. Cummings and Ms. Rodriguez-Hernandez, for laying it out and not pulling any punches either, and just really laying out where we are so that we can have a real productive conversation. So with that, I'll turn first to my co-chair of the Health and Human Services Committee, Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, and it is great to see everybody. Good afternoon. So this is, like, you talk about the full circle moments. This is really extraordinary and serendipitous because I am so excited to have the opportunity to continue to work with all of you, but from a different capacity. And I know in the first person how challenging it is on a good day to do this work, how to coordinate the various respective stakeholders, and there are many of them. And I also, and all of us, understand the depth of the challenges that our children and youth and families are facing at the moment. And so this is once again an opportunity for us to check in, see where we are, see what needs to be done to improve and enhance the system that we currently have in place. Some of this, candidly, is out of our control. What's happening with the fast-changing policies at the federal level are disproportionately impacting our most vulnerable families. And of course, the budget challenges that we are facing at the state level and soon at the county level as well will make it even more challenging for us to be able to provide the resources to the people that are doing this great work on the ground. All the more reason why it's important that we, as best we can, strategically align this work in a way that makes sense, in a way that's scalable, and in a way that's sustainable. Now, I have been here before. Many of us in this room have as well. And I know it can be done. There are a unique set of circumstances post-COVID that have made your all's work even more challenging than it was before COVID. But as the Council Vice President just acknowledged, I think all of us would like to be further along than we are currently right now. And so all of us own this, all of us, no matter where we sit or who we work for, all of us do, and that's okay. And so I look forward to this afternoon's conversation. There will be more after this, and we will all need to lean on each other and support each other to get us through these especially challenging times. But I continue to appreciate and respect the efforts of all of you and our children, youth, and families especially. So with that, I yield back to you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. Well said. Councilmember Chair Friedson.
Thank you. Thanks to our co-chairs. I am glad that this is an appropriate final meeting for Councilmember Albornoz. It's where we started working on some of these issues together prior to our service on the council, and look forward to you returning home, and we could use your help and work on the other end of things. I'll just note that meeting that we had back in April was very frustrating. I think all of us walked away with a sense of frustration that we just were not meeting the needs that we had. There was a level of miscommunication, lack of communication, synapses that were not firing. Most residents don't really care what entity or what government department or agency is responsible. They just expect the work to get done. And I think for us, there's a lack of understanding of who was on first and whose job was what. And even within agencies, one department talking to the other department seemed to be a real disconnect that was open for display for everybody to see. So the good news was the transparency that was demonstrated and the light that we were able to shine. The bad news was the reality that we're not on the same page. And the challenge that we're going to have to navigate through today is whether or not we've made the level of progress that we would have expected and were hoping at this point when we reconvened. It's been many months, and the question of whether or not we are truly on the same page, all heading in the right direction, moving where we need to go, is an open question to me at this point that we really need to dig into. We have to control what we can control. We can't control what's happening at the federal level. There are a number of things that are happening that are outside of control. We can't control what's happening and the needs that are growing in the community, and our ability to keep up with those needs are more and more challenging. But in the areas that we can control, it feels like we're not necessarily making the progress perhaps that we need to, and we're going to have to really dig into that today. And the expectations need to be higher and the execution needs to be better. And I think all of us need to assume our role and our responsibility in that. So I look forward to having a robust conversation, and hopefully we can end this with a little bit of less frustration than we're starting it and than we ended our last meeting with several months back.
Thank you. And I will say we have great programs in the county. We know that. Part of the problem is we don't have a good inventory. We don't have a good kind of accounting of all of the great programs. Some we do, some we don't. And that's one of the challenges we'll discuss today. So I want to thank all the providers, including recreation and our Health and Human Services team and our school-based folks. And many of us were just at the Community Bridges Gala, which is always a highlight, one of the many shining lights of examples of programs that happen in this county. So we have the fundamentals. We just gotta pull it all together. So I'll turn to is it Ms. Cummings? Are you going to start? Ms. Cummings and Ms. Rodriguez-Hernandez to walk us through the packet, talk about the strategic plan, successes and challenges, and then next steps for coordination. And then colleagues, just please put your hand up, and we'll, after the presentations, we'll get into questions. Ms. Cummings.
Thank you, Chair Jawanda. Today we are joined by the County Out of School Time partners to receive a briefing on the Out of School Time Network Advisory Group, which has been coordinated through the Montgomery County Collaboration Council and includes various county out of school time stakeholders, including the Department of Recreation, MCPS, DHHS, and the Maryland Out of School Time Network. Nicole and I would like to thank the out of school time providers who are here today, not only for their diligence in preparing for today's briefing, but for their efforts in improving the equality, quality, access, and sustainability of out of school time programming. Together, our partners have prepared a robust presentation to share an overview of the out of school time landscape, organizational updates on the work that is being done throughout the county, and to address some of the successes and barriers in addressing the out of school time strategic plan recommendations. We have prepared a staff report with a high-level summary of what will be presented today. Included on page 6 of the staff report, found on table 4, is updates on the progress that have been made towards meeting the out of school time strategic recommendations and barriers that have presented themselves as the advisory network group works towards the out of school time systems building process. We have included an overview of the fiscal landscape on page 10 and information on what next steps the group has under plan and consideration on pages 11 and 12. With that, we would, with the permission of the chair, turn to Ms. Wilson-Hunter, Director of Programs at Montgomery County Collaboration Council, to share the joint presentation today.
Yes, Ms. Wilson-Hunter.
Good afternoon. As Nicole mentioned, my name is Sydney Wilson-Hunter. I have the pleasure of serving as the Director of Programs at the Collaboration Council, and today I'm here with my colleagues representing the Montgomery County Out of School Time System and its network, as the Collaboration Council serves as the coordinating entity for this body. First, I want to just open by giving thanks to the folks sitting at the table here with me and a number of additional members who join us monthly in a collaborative effort to move this work forward. I also want to share that currently this is a coalition of the willing, driven by passion and a shared belief in what it takes to ensure that young people in the county have opportunities to thrive. Currently, the Collaboration Council holds no authority to mandate participation at any level for this work, so we're grateful to those who have pulled up a seat at the table and are willing to work together within the means of each of our organizations or agencies to bring this work to fruition. The last time our group sat in front of this body, we received some very necessary feedback that helped us to recalibrate ourselves. And on the topic of data, which is extremely crucial to the system, the network, again, holds no authority to request data from our partners and also exists without the resources to establish a countywide data mechanism to disaggregate this data by unique indicators across all network participants. Today, you'll hear about our FY26 data collection strategy and the launch of this strategy. And while our deck does not include a network-wide view of the data, you will hear from each of our large agency partners the data that they are currently collecting. We're grateful to MCPS, DHHS, and REG for sharing their data with the network, and as a coordinating entity, we look forward to formally including this data through the network's data collection process to further align and assess the capacities of data collection. Okay, cool. First, want to just start with uplifting our definition. This definition has been an important asset to the work, especially in this first phase of our strategic plan. Throughout the presentation today, you'll see the implications of the adoption of this definition across our network. And the implications of this definition really allowing us to expand the ideas of what out-of-school time can look like and ensure that we're building a diverse and inclusive network. Oops. Okay. Wanting to give an overview of the out-of-school time strategic plan and how this came to fruition. The OST strategic work group was co-chaired by Ramona Bell Pearson and the Collaboration Council. And through an intentional process, we aligned our strategic plan with the ECEI plan as well to ensure an alignment of continuum of care. The strategic planning work group intentionally consisted of private stakeholders to support the sustainability of programming, one of the key focus areas of the plan. The work group also participated in the Executive Office Initiative, the Youth Safety Initiative, to further align collaborative efforts across the county. And the 4 pillars that the system rests on are equity, quality, accessibility, and sustainability. Since the passing of the torch from the strategic planning work group, the evolution of the strategic plan and the participants have allowed us to eliminate silos, Agencies have been working to identify strategies for shared outcomes and results, and the network and its reach has also allowed us to engage in a more collaborative effort. We're still participating in the youth resilience work, and we're also engaging in the youth mental health work that is happening throughout the county. Along with aligning with the definition, we're also aligned in outcomes. The out-of-school time system and all of its partners are working towards outcomes for well-being of children that address well-being needs such as achievement, health and safety, developmental support and relationships, and leadership. And these outcomes were identified by scanning and categorizing the early needs, the positive development of youth and children, as well as existing out-of-school time efforts across the county. Currently, we are working as the advisory group, and inclusive in the advisory group are agency administrators. So in the first phase, in the strategic planning work group, there are a lot of department heads and directors. And today in the advisory group, we have the administrators who are really putting together the plan to mobilize and adopt these recommendations within their organizations and for the network. I want to highlight the growth of our advisory network group and also the OST provider network. Currently, the advisory group consists of 17 member organizations and agencies, including county agencies, private program providers, both nonprofit and for-profit, county advisory groups, and community members. And the provider network is currently made up of 30 plus out-of-school time providers across the county. And our network reach spans all 5 regional areas of the county, serving youth from elementary through post-secondary and young adults, and multiple program areas such as college and career readiness, mentoring, STEAM, arts and culture, sports, and more. In our infancy, our network has had much success with completing the recommendations from the out-of-school time strategic planning report from August 2024. With our equity-driven focus, we have been successful in aligning with the positive youth development and whole child frameworks and approaches versus a prevention and intervention approach. So a lot of our members are going within their organizations and taking an intentional approach to review their programs and offerings to ensure the alignment with the positive youth development principles. The network has also used resources such as the Advancing Youth Development Training to further education and align program providers around the principles of positive youth development, and also supporting them to enhance their program structures to further align with positive youth development and support the development of positive outcomes for young people. The network is strengthening the countywide intention of outcomes-based or focused programs. For example, within the Excel Beyond the Bell program, we are within year 2 of the outcomes pilot, working with the Excel Beyond the Bell middle providers to further assist and train on intentional outcomes-based program design. In regards to high quality, the network has continued to leverage existing tools and resources such as per the strategic plan's quality recommendation, such as the Youth Program Quality Tool and the Youth Program Quality Tool training, as well as capacity building workshops from the Collaboration Council for the network. Last fiscal year, we had the opportunity to engage the Recreation Department in participating in the Youth Program Quality Tool training facilitated by the Collaboration Council, and this year, the Rec Department has planned to utilize the tool across their programs. The MCPS Out-of-School Time Department has also operationalized this tool to assess its programs. The network has also promoted high-quality programs and program opportunities through the Excel Beyond the Bell open solicitation to increase high-quality providers in the program vendor pool, which is also available to the MCPS Out-of-School Department and MCPS Community Schools Department. Network members have also participated in the Program Quality Summit hosted and facilitated by the Maryland Out-of-School Network, engaging in conversations and data collection regarding what tools and resources vary across the state, as well as identifying what needs there are for providers to ensure high quality, impactful programming. To further support the recommendations connected to sustainability, focused in investing in professional development and capacity building, the Collaboration Council has also invested in the expansion of advancing youth development training, facilitation in the county, in an effort to expand this award-winning positive youth development, promoting opportunity to more MOCO out-of-school time providers. We've also built capacity to facilitate the Weicker Youth Program Quality Improvements Youth Work Methods Training and nationally recognized youth program quality evaluation and continuous improvement system for network members. We're also investing in the continued facilitation training for the youth program quality tool training, a recommended tool to continuous program quality monitoring and observation delivered by the local management board. Also within our provider network, our members are also extending opportunities for professional development and training to the member pool, such as trainings such as youth mental health first aid, and we're also leveraging and bolstering the Maryland Out of School Time Network professional development opportunities, including their online Youth Development Institute. Aligned with the recommendation to establish a local out-of-school time network that provides access to county-funded partners, OST services, supports, and opportunities aligned with accessibility. We launched the OST provider network in December 2024, and since then we are grateful to the members of the provider network who have consistently provided insights on furthering the inclusivity of the network so that we're not missing key providers, whether they be nonprofits, faith-based organizations, or for-profit businesses. As with all things in life, even with the greatest detailed plans, we have experienced a few challenges and barriers along the way. At the same time, we have much success. A huge success that I do want to raise up is the building of trust and alignment within the network. This is, as you all know, not an overnight easy feat. We recognized during the initial data collection process within the network that the amount of misalignment and mistrust and differing priorities that sit within the network. And we worked extensively through transparency and a community-driven approach to mitigate these feelings and grow in our shared pursuit of thriving young people in the county. In terms of challenges, as we continue this work to specifically with the data collection, we know that we are continuing to grow our data collection mechanisms and strategies. A key challenge that we've identified is the need for a greater collection capacity. Currently, no member of our network has the resources, whether it be funding, people, or tools, to capture and routinely manage the out-of-school time data the system is wishing to collect. Another challenge that we are facing is the adoption countywide of out-of-school time language and the definition. While the members of our network have adopted our definition, we have found that countywide agencies and departments are not utilizing any shared language that would support the streamlined identification of where out-of-school time investments are being made, which also impacts the network's ability to collect youth engagement data as well.
I just want to understand what you're saying on that. I just think this is an important point. So you're saying even the language of what out of school time, how you define it, or just explain that more? Because obviously if no one's agreeing on that, you can't decide who's tracking what, but could you just explain that a little more?
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier that we have a lot of providers across the county that are doing out of school time work, but under this definition that we are using for the network, not every agency or department is seeing their work fit into that definition.
County agency or department.
Right.
So, but you showed the list of all the folks and all the folks that are here. Everyone that's here is using that.
Yes,
definition.
correct. Everyone is here that's used, but we know that there are a number of people that we haven't engaged yet. In the challenge is that it's because they are not using that definition. And so when we're looking through county budgets or documents and we're looking for those who are serving young people, the challenge is identifying them because the language is different.
Okay. All right, we'll come back to that, but I just want to make sure I understood what you're saying. Please continue. And the other issue, you're saying no one has the responsibility of tracking the data. Like each individual entity does some level of data tracking, but it's not, no one's charged or funded or staffed to do that for everybody. And there's not necessarily agreements aren't in place, et cetera.
Right. So each agency tracks their data. Some of us are tracking them, or some agencies are tracking different data. And collectively, we don't have one person or one resource that can gather all those things and clean it up so that it all speaks to the same language.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to add a little bit of clarification. I think
This is a key point.
Yeah,
so I'm
absolutely a key point.
Oh,
For the record, Adrian Clutter, Acting Director, Recreation. I think one of the things that we honed in on that we talked about, as Sydney mentioned, so there are a number of service providers out there with a number of contracts, and one of the things that we're talking about is not necessarily the language of the definition. I think they understand that their work is contributing to out of school time. But when we write the agreements with many of the providers, are we writing the agreements with similar measures so that we can capture the data? We recognize that everybody respectively is going to have to capture their data, programs or methods to achieve goals, so there are going to be varying methods. But when we write those agreements, can we be more succinct across the board? We have a number of contracts. Collaboration Council does, so does HHS. But can we write those contracts more comprehensively with a shared set of language and measures? And I think that's our end goal here.
Thank you.
Okay. In April, we came before you and we attempted to share with you the data that the network was at the time collecting as a needs assessment through our initial data collection tool. This tool was launched in FY25 and was designed by our partners at Six Tool Solutions in an effort to collect fiscal data and understand the current funding landscape and the youth enrollment in OST as among the private and public out-of-school time members. The collection process came with a number of complications, but we're grateful to those who have shared what they could, as it was helpful for the network advisory group to identify an enhanced method to capture this information. We took this information into deep consideration and we regrouped. As a coordinating entity, we also faced challenges during this process in our ability to collect information for participants and information from non-participants who also do support out-of-school time programs. Lack of official designation as a coordinating entity stifles our ability to collect countywide data, especially from those who have not yet engaged with the network. And with that, for FY26, our advisory group prioritized greater alignment and data collection. The data committee was formed in August of 2025 and includes representatives from GHHS, MCPS, Montgomery County Rec, the Office of the County Council, and the Collaboration Council, as well as others. This team has been instrumental in the development of our new tool and to ensure the form is accessible to providers and supports the collection of data requested by the County Council. This new tool is a needs assessment tool that will allow us to capture the needs and gaps of out-of-school time providing organizations and the communities that they serve around the county. The purpose of this tool is to continue to understand the following: who is being served, where programs operate, what barriers exist, what supports providers need to improve quality and equitable access to out-of-school time opportunities based on their own reflections. The tool was launched Thursday, November 6th, and as of November 18th, we've had 9 responses, 8 of those responses being private program providers. And the one public agency responded to date is the MCPS OST department. Okay. I will wrap up here by just sharing a few of the existing and continuing limitations that we're experiencing with data collection. We look forward to eliminating these barriers as we continue the work and invite you all to support us in that journey. So again, the cross-agency adoption of specified out-of-school time language, the need for a continued data collection and capacity building map, and the lack of a centralized data collection system and tools to collect unduplicated data for providers and communities. This is Ellie Mitchell, who's joining us, I believe, online from the Maryland Out of School Time Network.
Oh, from MOST, yeah. Ms. Mitchell, are you online? Can you hear us? Take yourself off mute. Great.
Thank you. I just want to say a couple of things before I launch into my slides. First of all, I'm Ellie Mitchell. I am the director of the Maryland Out of School Time Network. And we are a statewide organization dedicated to more and better after school and summer learning opportunities for young people. We have the benefit of having a statewide view. And while you may be feeling frustrated about all the challenges that it comes along with the work of building an out-of-school time system, I just want to really highlight that Montgomery County is actually one of the few counties that are really undertaking the work right now to build a coordinated system. And you're in that way very much ahead of the game. And so I just want to commend you all for that effort. This is very hard work. There are good examples across the country, and I know that the OST system is looking at other regions and cities to learn from to advance the work. So just wanted to say that out front.
Thank you for reminding us that we are our own first standard. This happens in a lot of areas in Montgomery County where we are leading, and it's frustrating, and both things can be true. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Exactly. So I'm just going to give a high-level view of what's happening in Maryland in the out-of-school time space. So we just got brand new data from the After School Alliance, just released this October. This is 2025 data. We've seen the supply and demand issue become even more of a concern, in which we're seeing that so many more young people want to access programs, and our supply has actually decreased rather than increased. And so that's 3 in 4 children are missing out of after school programs. So we are really, we have a long way to go to meet the needs of working families and of young people who want to be engaged in these spaces. I would highly encourage the council to look at the Maryland data in the America After 3. It also talks about the sort of equity issue around access. It also talks about the kind of the eagerness that parents experience and how satisfied parents are with their after school programs these days. So lovely data. I encourage you to check it out in more detail, and I can send everybody the link to the Maryland data if they'd like. Next slide. So it is a challenging fiscal landscape, but there are opportunities to map real resources back to the out-of-school time system that you are in. So the good news is that for the moment, the 21st Century Community Learning Centers, which is one of the largest funding streams in Maryland for after school and summer, it has a significant investment in Montgomery County, has been retained at level funding in both the House and Senate funding proposals. You may have seen, though, that this program is one of many that was shifted to the Department of Labor a couple of days ago, so we don't know what kind of policy changes that might occur if that decision stands. I know there will be likely legal challenges to that. We are expecting, though, that there might be cuts to other programs that are supporting the out-of-school time space. We've already seen that in arts and science funding. We do not know what the fate of AmeriCorps will look like. There is some tenuousness around the mentoring grants. And even Title I has not been decided. And Title I is a very good source to support after school in schools themselves. So lots up in the air, but at the same time, there are, I think, opportunities to map new resources and to leverage what is happening in the space today. Next slide. So at the state level, we have we had 2 grant programs that were actually directed towards after school. And I will actually mention that neither of them were actually supporting Montgomery County because of the eligibility requirements in them. So the LEAP funding is now completely gone. The Public School Opportunity Enhancements Grant is only $2.5 million. So besides 21st Century, we have basically, for all intents and purposes, no dedicated after school and summer funding at the state level. So the opportunities, though, are with the concentration of poverty grant dollars. Those we have seen now. We have new data that says that across the state, about $18.4 million is going into extended learning programs in community schools. So I'm looking to get that number for Montgomery County specifically. We've seen also the investments from the Enough Act are supporting some after school and summer programs. There is potential for the cannabis tax revenue to support after school. This is very common in other states that have similar funds, particularly Colorado. The Denver out of school time system is funding a significant amount of after school programs through that revenue. We are tracking the potential outcomes of future social media lawsuits, which our state has already signed on to, and there's actually been a pilot in Harford County. And so that could be actually a significant source of funding going forward. So it is, there is a map to look at for, in addition to whatever investment the county makes, of finding other sources at the state level or at the local level that that could go into the pot of funds to really create a robust funding system for OST. Your county is looking at dual settlement dollars. There is, however, a concern about the retraction in philanthropy for OST. What we have been hearing from philanthropic groups and foundations is that their investments are going more strongly towards things like food pantries, towards homelessness, towards supporting immigrant and refugee families. So really backfilling what the feds are taking away with private dollars, which makes it more difficult to find the funds for educational opportunities and other kinds of things. So we are watching this. We're seeing this amongst our program providers. And it also speaks to the need for the county level systems and these other fund opportunities to really be fully leveraged in this case where philanthropy may not be coming to the rescue. So I know that the OST system put in a Senate appropriations request, very exciting. We do not know, again, this is the federal budget cycle. Who knows when we will actually have a budget? It's been several years before an actual budget has been passed. So I know they're working towards it. And I know that earmarks are actually something that both sides have kind of brought back to the table. So we'll see what happens with that. We mentioned that there are great resources in the blueprint for Maryland's future. We mentioned the cannabis tax restitution dollars earlier. And there is an opportunity potentially to expand the allowable uses in the Maryland Education Trust Fund and or develop a county level trust fund, maybe through multiple organizations or strategies. I know you have a 0 to 5 focused investment. I think that you could expand upon that and have a K-12 investment similar in that strategy. I just want to make the case for why this is so important, and we have really, really good research on this. Out of school time definitely has a research-based impact on chronic absenteeism, which I know all schools are struggling with now. We've made a little bit of progress, but we need to make much more. Math outcomes have been another sticky point, one we can't move. And we have great research that says that students who regularly participate in after-school programs show significant gains in math achievement by 5th grade. And that is even more impactful for low-income students. So that's the research of Deborah Vandell. We know that after school is improving college and career readiness. Deborah Vandell also did a longitudinal study that showed that young people in regular after school just do better in life. They're more likely to graduate high school, they're more likely to have secondary attainment, and they're more likely to have a higher level of income than their counterparts who do not have those experiences. So great research from Deborah Vandell and really encouraging news about the long-term outcomes for young people who have experienced these high-quality after-school programs. And youth leadership is so important. I'm seeing more and more young people really taking a charge one way or the other, out of school time programs are a great platform for that youth voice.
Thank you. I think that's your last slide.
And I'll leave you just to say that there's a really great report that talks both about the impact of out of school time, but also the needs for the systems building support for out of school time. It's a consensus report from the National Academies. It's called The Future of Youth Development, Building Systems and Strengthening Programs. It's a beautiful and it has a lot of really good resources for this kind of work. And again, I just want to thank the other folks in the Montgomery County out of school time system for always engaging with most and for bringing us here today, but also for the hard work they're doing to try to figure out these difficult questions. Data collection may be the really toughest question to tackle, and it's one that long-term systems even still struggle with. So I appreciate everybody's efforts on this. Really important work, and thank you again.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mitchell. If colleagues are okay, I'm going to let the other folks present, and then we'll ask questions just to get through. And then we can talk systems, and you can ask specifically. So we may need to go back in slides, but I think so. Ms. Jordan B., are you next with MCPS? Oh, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, distinguished members of the Montgomery County Council. My name is Dr. Lakeisha Lashley. I am the director of the George B. Thomas Learning Academy, also known as Saturday School, Out of School Time, and Summer School. So thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I am pleased to co-present on behalf of the departments in Montgomery County that provide out of school time programming. I get to work with an amazing team who's here with me today. We've coordinated our outfits. My amazing team includes Jennifer Strubel, who is the out of school time coordinator, and MCPS has prioritized their outreach in support of our office, and we've grown, and we have an instructional specialist. Her name is Jennifer Granadas. I'm also joined with my co-presenters, who will be Shauna K. Jarambi, the Director of Student Wellbeing, Hope McGuire, the Supervisor of Community Schools. There are other offices, such as athletics, that provide out-of-school time opportunities that are not here with us today. As part of our mission, we seek to provide comprehensive opportunities that promote wellness, leadership, engagement, and belonging in collaborative partnerships, with the goal being to contribute to the moving the needle along for our families. As director, it was important to identify where we were serving our students in our out-of-school programs and to whom we were serving. So our team organized by school and by program where we were located, and for the purpose of today's meeting, organized an overview by county council district. So we were able to kind of see some of the areas where we are providing services and some of the gaps for future programming needs. If you please can click, thank you. We have a tool that was created by Jennifer Granadas. It's an interactive map that's going to do an overview and demonstrate what you can do at your leisure to see all the districts. So if you click on District 6, for example, in District 6, you have some schools, you see the schools we serve in total, how many of those schools are community schools. You see the number of students in out-of-school time offerings. And we've highlighted 21st century grant programs, of course, the George B. Thomas Senior Learning Academy Centers, and additional offerings will be included, such as our algebra high dosage tutoring, Girls on a Run, etc. So I do encourage you at your leisure to please click through to see all the overviews for all of the county districts. If you don't mind, Nicole, can you go back to the main deck?
Could you just explain that? So that is going to be for MC.
Those are all the programs offered through MCPS for out of school time.
Just the MCPS programs.
Yes.
Understood. Got it. Okay, great.
Now I'll pass it along to my colleague, Hope McGuire.
Thank you. Ms.
So,
McGuire.
that's it.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Hope McGuire, Supervisor of Community Schools. You will also hear us talk about concentration of poverty. That is the name of the grant. We currently are at 77 community schools. So this information is a mix of the 53 schools we have from last year and the 77 that we've already started doing some additional work in MCPS One of the main things from our last meeting was to cross-collaborate and coordinate with the out-of-school time office and Dr. Lashley and those specialists that are in her office, along with continuing the work in the out-of-school time network that we have within Montgomery County. That has helped us also provide opportunities for newly identified community schools that do not have the funding for an out-of-school time activity or program for students in their schools. So what we noticed was many times we were doubling up or tripling up services in certain schools, but to make sure that we're touching more students and more schools, we have collaborated to look at the list of schools that come in to make sure that we are actually identifying new schools with an opportunity to have an out-of-school time program in their building this year. For instance, Briggs Cheney, Banneker Middle School were some of the newly identified middle schools this year. So instead of us maybe putting more programs in the Watkins Mill area where they already had some, whether it be through their school-based funding and through other grants, we were able to shift and make sure that those schools that were new, who don't get that additional funding in their first year as a community school, are able to have a program through the out-of-school time office. Those are some things that we are going to continue to do throughout. The next part is also this year we will be engaging our students through listening sessions. Montgomery County has a very unique position in 56 of our community schools that is called a wellness trainer. So we will be utilizing that position to have real small group listening sessions with our students at all grade levels, K through 12, to make sure that the students can tell us what they're looking for in that out-of-school time network. I also just wanted to highlight the map that you see here. Many times we show you the map of every school in the county. This one is only the 77 community schools to make sure that everyone can see where the concentrations of poverty, schools, and programming are sitting currently within MCPS. And so we'll show you the large number that is starting in the Gaithersburg going up county. And then we have the down county area, Silver Spring, East County, with 4 schools that are sitting in the middle of Rockville. I will now pass this over to my colleague, Ms. Jorambi.
Oops, sorry. I don't think I should have the clicker.
Back to you, George B. Thomas.
Yeah. In my role, I have the pleasure of being the executive director of the George B. Thomas Senior Learning Academy, also known as Saturday School. The Learning Academy has served the families in Montgomery County for 39 years, and we celebrate our 40th anniversary next fall. We provide affordable tutoring and enrichment in a 6th day of learning for up to 2,500 students at 9 in-person sites housed at our county high schools and 1 virtual. We use MCPS buses, provide transportation for families, and provide breakfast on Saturday mornings. Our students in our grades 1 through 12 signature program receive 2.5 hours of focused tutoring in mathematics and English language arts. All of our sites offer SAT, ACT prep. Some of our sites offer pre-K, kindergarten, coding, robotics, a young scholars program, adult literacy, and intro to cosmetology and automotive. Our enrollment has skyrocketed due to our amazing team that includes our center directors. In the month of August and September, we attended 17 school and community events to market an effort to increase visibility, support fundraising, and drive interest in our program for the 2025-2026 tutoring year. As of October 2025, our enrollment report, the George B. Thomas Senior Learning Academy is proud to share that we have nearly 200 more students enrolled than we did last year at this time. This significant increase reflects the impact of intentional recruitment efforts through the county and powerful partnerships to strengthen with our community schools. Together, these collaborations amplify awareness of our program, engage more families, galvanize our shared commitment to expanding access and high-quality learning opportunities for students across Montgomery County. And we're excited to continue the legacy of Dr. George B. Thomas as we position ourselves to surpass our ending enrollment from last year in May sooner. I pass the torch over to my colleague.
Good afternoon, Council. I'm really excited to talk to you about this aspect of out-of-school time because I've experienced it on more than one level. So I'll start with the broad overview. In Montgomery County, every single school has something called ECA funds, extracurricular allocated funds. Every school gets that. And there are standard offerings. So you might have newspaper club, jazz ensemble, funds to fund director positions for school performances. And every school has a baseline across the board. Every school also has extracurricular funds that are choice funds. So there's a certain amount allocated by level, elementary, middle school, high school, that will pay for things like when a student says, hey, Ms. Jornby, I really want to do anime club, right? That's a really common one. Or Dungeons and Dragons, like things that you would not expect that might be a little bit more niche. So there are funds there for choice. Every school gets that. There is a baseline. You have other programming, such as athletics, that every school also receives. So we consider our athletic departments. Jeff Sullivan has been before this panel many times to talk about the great success of our student leaders and our athletic programs. And those are interscholastic athletics, and they also include intramural athletics. There are funds for non-competitive athletic opportunities as well. So those are kind of the baseline. However, what really enriches our programming as well are our partnerships. And so I get the privilege of being able to work with our partners in DHHS, our partners in the Department of Recreation, as well as some of our partners that come to us as nonprofit groups or community agencies that have services that would be beneficial to our students. So I just want to do a couple of quick highlights. I want to start with the Department of Recreation. I was introduced to EBB at its inception. When it first started, my school, where I was a baby administrator, was an EBB selected school. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, we were not sure at first about what it was going to look like. A lot of things were changing for us. We were going to go to double the amount of time. So our kids were going to stay with us till 5:45. We were going to shift to having providers come into the school where we were used to our ECA offerings. We were shifting to offering students supper that came with that. So we were going to hot meals in the afternoon, which had elements about how we work with food and nutrition. Food and nutrition staff usually gets off at about 1:30, right? So all of these things were different for us, and bringing it into the school was going to be a major change. And so we were hesitant in a lot of ways. And I will tell you, having been a day one school, this is one of the best programs that we've experienced in Montgomery County. And I share that because if you go back and look at the tapes, the first time I ever had to come to central office to do any kind of presentation was to speak about and advocate for EBB. So what a full circle moment to sit at this table to be able to say about the great work that they do and how that work has continued and improved. So just a shout out to Rec for that partnership. And you'll hear a theme come up as we talk about partnership because that's what's helped improve our programs. At this point, EBB and Rec programs are in 60 of our school sites. They might touch more sites, but they are stationed and located in 60 of our sites. They serve over 12,000 students through after-school programming, summer programming, and programming that helps some of our young people access work skills. So I just wanted to I know they're going to talk about their own data, and I won't step on that, but I did want to honor that. I do want to thank also our DHHS partnerships. So our social worker supervisor, Ms. Stephanie Wallace, is in the audience, and she works primarily with our wellness centers, our Bridge to Wellness programs, our linkages programs that a lot of people associate with mental health services during the day or associate with therapy or case management. A lot of those groups through the wellness centers have expanded to include services that include after-school components. And many of the folks here today were also with us earlier this week when we talked about the CHRC grants and how those grants have helped to have those programs extend even further. So lovely to make those connections. And then finally, I want to talk about some of our nonprofits, programs like University of Maryland. University of Maryland came to us and said, we would like to expand our work in robotics. We have students that are coming into us with robotics that may have robotic skills, but maybe not those SEL skills, those social emotional learning. Can our robotics division and our psych division combine to create an after-school program for students that's focused on STEM and also human development and social emotional growth? And so UMD came to us with that, and we were able to pilot that this year in 5 schools and are looking at outcomes to see whether our underserved populations then go on to elect more classes focused in STEM, and whether those same populations display more skills of self-awareness, connectedness, working together. So those aren't 2 areas that often come together, but our after-school programming allow those things to happen. And as we measure and track the data and the success of that, we can work on some of those expansions and equitable access. Next slide, please. I know our time is short, so I won't go into any of these, but I did want to highlight some of the programs coming out of our wellness centers, whether it's through CHRC grants or whether it's directly through DHHS. These programs are offered, again, not just in the daytime, as we might be used to, but a lot of these programs are offered in that out-of-school time. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Dr. Lashley, who will share about the county's ECA programs.
Thank you, and you really did a great job already, but this just shares what the baseline is. Elementaries get 5 programs, middle school 25, high 68, and then there are allotted additional hours based on what she was saying what all schools receive for our ECA.
And just, you have numbers on, you don't have to go into them now, but the numbers are available about within MCPS about how many students are participating in these programs, correct?
For the ECA?
Yeah.
Yes, we're able to get that information.
Is that in the packet, in the appendices or anything? Okay, no. Okay, that's just something to
Yep, thank you.
work on. Thanks.
Yep, sure. So on behalf of my colleague, on behalf of MCPS, our goal is to continue to provide out-of-school offerings that move the needle for our families. As you can see, some of our future programming goals are to expand our 21st Century Learning Center programs, increase our partnerships, as we spoke to, expand grant funding programs, and ensure our community schools have out-of-school opportunities, and there's an alignment of that work with our request for those types of out-of-school opportunities. And our goal is always to move the needle and strengthen and widen our partnerships and expand the equity extensions to our communities so that they're thriving and they're getting the things that they're needing. Now pass the clicker to DHHS. Yes.
All right, we're DHHS.
Thanks. All right. Good afternoon. I'm Lori Garibay-Aquino, Chief of Children, Youth, and Family Services, and I will be going over some of the out-of-school time programs and services that we have within HHS, specifically in our CYF division. So in CYF, as the slide states, we currently oversee 27 out-of-school time programs and contracts, and these are programs and services that are offered to our youth before and after school specifically, so tying in with that definition of out-of-school time. Within our Community and Youth Violence Prevention and Intervention Program area, formerly known as Positive Youth Development, there are currently 9 programs and contracts that offer out-of-school time activities to youth. These include tutoring, mentorship, and wellness activities that support youth, specifically with the focus on youth who are at risk for gang violence. Within our child and adolescent school and community-based program, we have 18 out-of-school time contracts that collectively serve children and youth across the county. And lastly, within our early childhood services team, we have a total of 10 licensed child care and public spaces programs, and these are county subsidized state licensed child care centers that serve school-age children before and after school. And they're located in public buildings such as schools or other government buildings across the county. Altogether, these contracts and programs have a total budget of a little under $13 million funded by county funds. And the focus for all of our programs really are equity, access, and cultural responsiveness, engagement for youth and their families. So the chart on this slide just provides an overview of the types of services we have within CYF that count as out of school time and the many partners that we work with to provide these services across the county. Double clicking. So in terms of data collection, evaluation, and overall just program improvement across our OST programs, our contracted programs and the partners we work with do submit monthly, required monthly and annual reports, and these include things such as demographic or numbers of students served, and also key outcomes from the work that they do. The methods used to collect this data varies greatly across program depending on the services that are provided, but it can include anything from youth surveys, focus groups, family and community engagement. And it's important to note that of specific priority for us this year is to really include stronger language in all of our contracts that are up for renewal, to really allow us to kind of do more of that streamlining approach across the programs we have in CYF to ensure that we're collecting the data in similar ways across all of our programs, similar to what we talked about with our colleagues at REC as well. So just highlighting a few of our major successes. I know we talked earlier about the Community Bridges program, but also want to spotlight them here as well. So the Community Bridges is an out-of-school time program that focuses on empowering girls from diverse backgrounds to become confident, independent, and connected leaders. In FY25, the program served 532 girls from grades 4 to 12, and these included elementary, middle, and high school participants as well. Very excited for this program because the demographics of the program really demonstrates the diversity across the county, with over 90% of those participants being of an ethnic racial minority. So in FY25, here's some highlights from the evaluation, but what we're really seeing is measurable growth and increases in the outcomes that we're measuring from this program. So academic confidence, community engagement, for our high school students, a higher level of college readiness, and overall social and emotional growth as well in respect to participation in this program. All right, so another success that also want to just highlight here that is really more so geared towards our providers in the community who are providing a lot of these out-of-school time services. This is an example of kind of some internal coordination that we did to help those providers in their day-to-day. So our early childhood services team updated its childcare in public spaces policy earlier this year. And the goal of this was to really align with current practices and improve operations for those providers. The most significant changes included the elimination of a fee on childcare licenses that historically the childcare providers had to pay, and also extending the license renewal terms from 3 to 5 years, which also improves time efficiency and also cost efficiency for the providers as well. And the policy also included assurance that provider agreements are applied and updated consistently moving forward, not specifically in that 3 to 5 year range. So just wanted to highlight that here because it's also important to get the other aspect of OST, which are the providers in the community actually providing these services to our youth. So some barriers and gaps that we've seen specifically within CYF and some areas that we could improve upon. What we're seeing is really a growing demand for more programs in high school, specifically programs that are more consistent and culturally tailored out of school time programs. One important thing to note is the staffing shortages and kind of workforce instability that we're seeing in terms of out of school time. We hear a lot of our youth saying that they really want someone who they can count on every day, that they can see every day. And it's important for these out of school time providers to have that consistency, to build those relationships with our youth, which lead to those positive outcomes that many of us have noted before. And I know we've talked about this in detail, but also kind of shoring up our quality of data and our data collection and standardizing data again, not only across CYF, but working closely with our rec partners, with Collaboration Council, MCPS, to ensure that we're collecting similar data and those outcomes so that we can bring our data together and really tell the full picture of what we're doing in out of school time. And then finally, keeping up with the need to update our facilities and the infrastructure that we have to provide the out of school time services to our youth. So finally, in terms of future initiatives and direction, so as I said earlier, data shows us that there's a need for out of school time program, specifically in certain geographic areas within the county for the work that we do in CYF, those geographic areas where we see high cases of youth violence and mental health needs. And as a result, we're looking into developing some more kind of tailored, center-based and neighborhood specific programs that provide that consistent and daily engagement opportunities for those youth. We're looking to strengthen our partnerships with, of course, everyone here at this table, but also some agencies and community partners that aren't here. So working more closely with libraries, transportation, and bringing other community partners into the conversation as well. We're also actively working to improve the quality of the care that we provide. So doing some more tailored, detailed training for our staff who are on the ground, more specific fidelity monitoring, and doing more of those feedback loops with our community and also our youth and their families. We're working very closely with a lot of those partners that were in that first slide to do some more in-depth TA related to data collection and really the importance of having good quality data to show the outcomes of the work that we're doing. And finally, I would be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about our Youth Resilience Initiative. So really working with our Collaboration Council, our other colleagues here, to tie some of this work in with the work that we're hoping to do with youth resilience. And that initiative is a coordinated countywide call to action, I think, for all of us. It focuses on youth advocacy and also accountability on our part. And one of our immediate priorities for that effort is to launch a transparent and publicly accessible youth data hub, which we're working on now, which takes into account publicly available data, kind of puts it in a easy to read format, and will allow a lot of our partners and community partners to use that data to make data informed decisions about what types of programs are needed across the county. So I will pass it on to.
Thank you, Department of Rec, last but not least.
All right. I'm going to get my clicking practice down. All right. Adrian Clutter, Acting Director for Recreation. It has been a complete honor to serve in this capacity, but we're looking forward to getting Councilmember Albanaz back. He gets us. He gets his stuff. I wouldn't be in Montgomery County if it wasn't for Councilmember Albanaz and, bringing me over here to do youth development work. So we're excited. I also want to take an opportunity really to give a couple thank yous that are really important because we've come a long ways. We heard from our colleagues at MCPS, and we're certainly proud of the work. And we've invested a lot in the community, so organizations like Action in Montgomery. And, just the other day I rode around in the car with Reverend Tim Warner, who was really instrumental in bringing Excel Beyond the Bell to Montgomery County. And there really are so many partners. Our past director, Robin Riley, of course, council member. Arbanaz was former director of Recreation, Arbanaz at that time. And then Most was instrumental in getting some of this work launched. And I know some of you may not have known, but really brought youth program quality methods all across the state of Maryland. And so I had the benefit of, learning from Most, back around 2012, or I shouldn't date myself, but back then it was really important. And I need to say that we wouldn't be here without our partners. Our partners help us deliver a lot of comprehensive services. And because of our partners, we've made our programs more accessible, more culturally responsive, more socially relevant, more healthy-minded, and most importantly, more intentionally designed. And I really think that's key. And we talked a lot about, the work that we're doing. And we don't often describe well what the intersection of that work looks like. And we definitely have our own responsibilities. But if you could picture it for a second, a school, because often someone will say, well, HHS is in that school. And I say, yes, and it's better when we're there together. So when you could picture all of the service levels of a school whose school administration is ready to receive out-of-school time. That has a robust out-of-school program like Excel Beyond the Bell, and then a support mechanism for wraparound services like linkages. It doesn't get much better than that. And Councilmember Avenaz mentioned like post-COVID, and we know, and I remember sitting with Joanne Barnes, who was at the time, we said, what is it looking like as we're coming out of COVID? And it means we're going to get back to basics largely in a lot of ways, getting back to youth program quality, because we know that programs aren't quality. If they're not quality, it's like they don't count. Getting back to wrapping around services so that we're serving the whole child. And we don't do that alone, and we do that with all of our partners at the table. And then certainly one aspect that we'll touch on a little bit later is workforce development. And that's an important piece because it gives the young people the benefit of not having to make hard decisions between financial income and participating in the out-of-school time where they get the developmental assets that they need. So here we have a list of several of, these are the after-school sites. So these don't include the camps. These don't include a lot of the other programs. We're in we're well over 100 locations full year. And so again, we don't do this alone. And with our partners, we're able to serve over 25,000 young people on an annual basis. And it's important to note, and I'm hearing, definitely seeing the theme that we're up 10% in recreation year over year since 2023. And that's going to be important as we get to the end of this presentation as well. One of the things that's important to everybody, we know what gets counted counts, and we reuse a variety of tools to do that, to look at program accountability and performance measures. There are 3 types of measures. We work heavily with County Stat, who's here with us today, so shout out to them. Again, we don't do it alone, but how much did we do? How well did we do it? And is anyone better off? And Ellie in her presentation mentioned that the research says that young people are better off with math scores. The cool thing is that we actually have the evidence to prove it. We know from our past studies with the Office of Shared Accountability and the statistically valid studies that have previously been conducted, that for example, our Excel Beyond the Bell students have clear wins. They've got better mean attendance rates than non-EBB participants. They've outperformed non-EB participants on math outcomes. They've made positive and observable differences in the reading, and it echoes the similar results for both elementary and middle school. And that's something that's important to know. And again, we use a variety of tools. We use County Stat, Office of Shared Accountability. You heard about the Weichert Center on Youth Program Quality. We have strong relationships to the American Camp Association, who really was a driver in the early 2000s in the youth development movement, and of course, our National Recreation and Parks Association. And now I'm going to turn it over to Miranda Williams, our Manager of Youth Development, who makes a lot of this happen for us.
Thank you, Adrienne. Good afternoon, Council. So I'm going to go through all of our recreation out-of-school time programs, starting with our after-school programs, which you see on the slide. That number there represents our FY25 enrollments. Our core after-school programs are very comprehensive. We have the Excel Beyond the Bell programs at the elementary and middle school levels, Rec Extra, Rec Zone, and Club Adventure. So as many of you know, Excel Beyond the Bell serves grades 1 through 5, and we offer up to 30 academic and enrichment courses across 3 sessions during the school year. This particular program also incorporates program parent engagement into its programs, supporting the strengthening of school communities and connecting families to additional resources. Our Club Adventure program is our other elementary-based after-school program. It's held at our recreation centers, at 10 of them, and it's for grades K through 5, and they feature structured recreational activities. We are in 10 EBB middle school locations and 15 middle schools for our Rec Extra program, where middle school students are offered a wide range of academic support or recreational activities and social development opportunities. These programs also incorporate unique after-school experiences like field trips or community service activities. And lastly, our rec zones are high school programs. We're in 6 high schools in Montgomery County, and we focus on 4 pillars of programming there: academics, enrichment, recreation, and college and career readiness. I'd like to add that these programs really work to reduce barriers to participation. We partner with our MCPS colleagues to provide transportation home, as Mrs. Jarombi mentioned, meals and snacks, hot suppers after school, and also inclusion support to make sure that every young person that wants to stay after school can do so and participate fully. I also want to highlight that recreation values youth voice. Through a company called Hello Insight and their surveys, we gathered direct feedback from young people about their program experiences with us, and they were measured against proven positive youth development practices, and it found that 75% of our young people reported that adults in our program helped expand their interests, and that exceeds the national benchmark here in the U.S. Next up is our camps. We offer not only childcare for working families, but engaging and enriching experiences that support skill building and combat summer learning loss. Recreation offers camps primarily for elementary and middle school students, and full-day traditional programs like our summer fun centers, our teen camp, which is one of our newer programs that is offered for middle school students, and our therapeutic recreation camps. And we also offer uniquely tailored experience camps such as Summer Leadership Challenge, which focuses on leadership and career pathways, our Summer Sports Academy, which of course focuses on sports, and our outdoor adventure camps, which focus on nature. We offer tons of contract and specialty programs. These are usually 1 or 2 week activities that vary from STEAM to arts to sports to science. And we also want to call out our partnership with MCPS with our Camp Rec program. That is a summer wraparound program for Title I school students that bridges summer school and camp, combining academic enrichment with health and wellness. So just because a young person is selected to go to summer school doesn't mean they can't have fun with us afterwards. So we provide that summer camp right there on site, so they get that camp experience as well. Here I want to also just highlight the demand, as with our after school programs, the demand for summer programming when school is out is high. An example, our summer fun centers fill in 1 day. Many of them fill within minutes. So the demand is there, and we're also making an impact. 92.8 or 08% of our survey respondents, our campers from last summer, indicated yes, that their kids and their campers were better off after attending summer camp. They made friends, they learned new skills, and they became more confident. Just highlighting some additional key summer camp statistics.
I'm gonna, not to cut you off, but I see how many are left, and I think most of them are you guys. So if just highlight the highlight.
Yeah. Okay,
here,
awesome.
So we can
all right, so those are our highlights. I think what you
serving
there.
them. If folks want to see, you're serving these.
Yeah.
These
So
folks.
awesome,
Right.
not a problem. Youth programs and events. These are more non-traditional programs such as drop-in opportunities in the evening time or on Friday nights, keeping young people away from risky behavior with caring adults that could make sure that they are doing good things and connecting.
And those are the
doing right
numbers for the whole year there? Is that what that is?
Correct.
In the
Yeah, so those
parentheses?
are FY26 enrollment data, except for the ones with asterisks. Those are FY25. We are still having those programs, but with ongoing enrollment, we wanted to give you numbers from last year for those. One program I wanted to highlight here is our Summer Bienvenidos programs. It is a culturally responsive summer program for newcomer youth, so those that have been in the county for 2 years or less, from out of the country. It offers mentorship. We do outings with them and just kind of help them get acclimated to life here in the United States. Youth sports is next, and so our department offers a wide variety of sports, from soccer to non-traditional programs like lacrosse and skateboarding and cricket. And so with that, I want to say that our non-traditional offerings also have increased our female participation, especially in swim, volleyball, and flag football. Those numbers reflected on that slide are FY25. Recently, the county worked with other county agencies or local governments to endorse the Children's Bill of Rights. It was developed by the Aspen Institute to affirm that youth sports participation is a fundamental right, and it incorporates positive youth development principles into sports, and we're excited to incorporate that more into the work that we do. Adrian mentioned our youth workforce development. Montgomery County Recreation is one of the largest employers of young people here in the county, ages 15 to 24. We have over 1,600 young people on our payroll. For many, recreation is their first job. So whether they are joining our Teamworks program, which I'll briefly mention, or they're joining as a summer camp counselor, we are where they really start their career pathway. Teamworks is a unique youth workforce development initiative, and it allows young people an opportunity to have experiential learning and job readiness training. So Adrian mentioned that they don't have to choose between going to work and an after-school program and participating with their friends. They can kind of do both and lead to a pathway of a new career. There, I also want to say we are partnering with other local agencies and nonprofits to offer apprenticeships. So you'll find our Teamworks in other locations outside of the rec department. And back to Adrian. Thank you.
Thank you. That was great.
All right, just a couple things that I think are worth mentioning, and I'll go pretty quickly here. That we have over 553, well, right now, 553 instructor services contracts that we administer for out of school time and classes, camps, programs, and services. And so, as you can imagine, if we can get some consistency around the performance measures for those contracts, we're going to be in a lot better position. Also noteworthy to mention, 139 teachers are on contract with us at the moment providing academic support. So, that speaks to the collaboration with Montgomery County Public Schools, but also we forget about the supports in terms of a new teacher in Montgomery County who needs extra income, but also gets the creativity and the flexibility to help us teach academics in a flexible manner. So just some side bonuses that we don't often tell that story well. And the last thing, parent engagement, so critical for our programs, and we do it really well in Excel Beyond the Bell, connects to PTA programs, and we often and frequently have 100% attendance at those events, and we've served over 5,000 in attendance last year with our parent engagement. So wanted to mention that. As we move forward, is certainly our vision to expand Excel Beyond the Bell to 100% of Title I schools. But it's not just limited to Title I schools. That really is a vision to say we need to be in the schools that need us. And we hope to continue to grow. Again, we thank the council, particularly the past council and the executive for just steady growth with Excel Beyond the Bell. Challenges that I think that are notable that we need to consider: summer camp gaps, and we know, again, you heard it filled in minutes in some cases, but for middle schoolers, years ago we took reductions in camp for middle schoolers, and a lot of that sort of fell off the radar for folks. So it was a large gap for us. Another gap is for summer camps for pre-K through kindergarten. This is one of the number one things I hear when we offer camp fairs. We have some, but not enough. The rising demand for inclusion supports and out of school time. We need to pay attention to this because it's important. We're serving, which is great, because we're reaching more and more families with who have children with disabilities, but we are able to provide one-on-one supports. An important piece about Teamworks that's noteworthy here is that we use our Teamworks programs and hire them, train them, and use them to serve as one-on-one support companions. So there's dual benefit there. And the number of demands for accommodations is rising, and we are legally required to meet that accommodation. The non-tax supported fund for recreation, which is a spending authority, while the way it appears to be in the recreation base, what it is, our Fund 111 serves as sort of like a self-sustaining fund. We collect fees and user fees and use those fees to pay instructors, such as the Coach Parkers and other folks. And if you notice, 50% of our camp makeup is in Fund 111. And so in order to continue to meet the rising demand of our community, we need increased spending levels in this fund. It doesn't mean we're asking for more money in our base. It means we need the authority to spend the money that we bring in fees and charges. But overall, I do recognize the impact against the county's ability to spend overall. And something last that we need to strongly consider is youth sports is a really big topic. I won't go deeply into it, but there is a movement to bring grassroots sports back to public recreation departments to make sure that they're accessible by more young people. And we thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are we back to you for this slide as we close out here? Okay.
Yeah, just to close out, next steps for the network would be to continue the process of building on the MCPS and REC MOU to creating dedicated partnerships. Our advisory committee has reconvened in our advisory group has reconvened in subcommittees. So those subcommittees will have regarded itself and will ensure that the recommendations by function are carried out. Again, our continued data focus, high priority for the network with launching that tool earlier this month. And then also continuing on with our research avenues, specifically around cost models and thriving workforce for the after school profession. And then this slide is just an example of future investments that would support the network as we continue the work of building the system.
All right. I know that was long and a lot, but I wanted to, there was the option of stopping after each agency, then that wouldn't have gone well because we would have gotten down some rabbit holes. So now we can go down the rabbit holes. Anything you want to add before I dive in, staff? Okay. So I'll start and I'll model. I won't ask as many questions as I'd like to. I'll just try to ask one or two, and then I'll turn to my co-chairs and then colleagues. I'll go to everybody, I'm assuming. And Councilmember Lukey, I see you there too, so we haven't forgotten about you. Let's start with the MOU, because I found out last week that, if you remember last time I said, let's have it done before we come back, and then I found out that it wasn't done just recently here and didn't want to take this off the calendar because it had been on the calendar for a while. So where are we with that? What are the challenges? Why has it not been done? How can we help?
Sure. So, and I Rec, if
This
you
is
don't mind,
this is
I'll
for
jump
people
in.
watching at home, the
Yes.
millions watching at home. This
Yep.
is the MOU, the
Got it.
Memorandum of Understanding between MCPS and the Rec
Department of Recreation.
so that they can share data so that we can know who's doing what and how and where so that we can track our students.
So we're in a great place with the MOU. Most
we're not in
things,
that great of a
well,
place.
we're at the signature stage. So
Okay.
most of the things are agreed upon. And a lot of what we do with REC, we share a lot of information with each other as agencies that we're really proud about how that's done. The sticking point for the MOU might be surprising, and it might be a topic that you talk about tomorrow. The sticking point for the MOU right now is a line in the background checks between our two unions. So our legal teams are working through that. They're adjusting the specific language, but there was language that MCPS changed for all of our agencies in June that needs clarification sometimes between some of our agencies. So that is the sticking point is not with the data. The sticking point is not with any of the elements. That is that one piece that's being worked out, and we're right at the close of it.
Aligning the background checks? So
So
you have different
it-
standards for how you do background checks? Or what do you mean by it? What does that mean?
Yeah, so one of the things as MCPS, and please cut me off if I overspeak, MCPS was asking for language that they require in all of their new agreements, and that language, historically, they understand that the county does background checks that are in alignment with the same process of MCPS. So we're using the same systems except for MCPS is doing a set and the county is doing a set. And so we needed to make sure that the language was still accepting that as the way to move forward, because there's certain restrictions amongst sharing background checks of represented employees that would get us into a place that we may have additional challenges. However, I say that in a way that's probably not as clear as it should be, but I need to give credit to Stacy. I apologize, I forgot her last name. Ormsby. Yeah, Stacy Ormsby, Justin Nunley, and Walter Wilson. These are attorneys who have worked so hard to come to solutions, and I believe too that we are at the They're reviewing the adjusted language that was recommended in the most recent meeting with the attorneys, and I think we're at that final stage of where we're going to have a signature momentarily.
I agree.
So in like the next week?
Yes, sir. As soon as we clarify it's being routed, we wanted it done for today, but we couldn't get the final signatures
One of
on
the reasons
today.
I kept the meeting on, because I know that works.
Love it.
So so when it's signed, okay, I'm going to move past the signing because I'm going to take you at your word. It's going to be signed in next week. What will that allow? Let's talk about the good part. What will that allow us to do? Because again, backing way up, Councilman Robinez and I have worked really hard, and so have others, but he and I in particular on this early childhood education piece. And we start every meeting. We started the meeting of, okay, there's 50,000 kids, 0 to 4. How many of them are in an early child care setting? I think the goal here and how I want to move forward with our future work here is we've got all these numbers all over the place. But we know the population, right, of whatever that number is of our students, 0 to could be past 18, but let's our 20. Yes, our out of school time population, right, 0 to 24, right, or whatever the number is. How many of them are being served? What are the demographics? Like that's where we need to get, and how do we track to it? Because you can't measure the progress, unless we're there. So tell me a little bit about how this will help us solve the problem of addressing that.
Yes, and we have been able to historically do it when we had agreements in place. So we've broadened this agreement. That's what's great about this new MOU. How is it different? It's not just Excel Beyond the Bell. We're looking at all of the programs that you saw Miranda just discuss on the list. And this will allow us to share data back and forth. So example, Montgomery County Government Recreation collects participation level data, which as many of you may know is like PII, which there's all kinds of security around protecting data. So we'll take in that data. We will have Montgomery County Public Schools will help us identify the student ID numbers on that data, and that's part of the key. So we'll share our data with Montgomery County Public Schools. We'll scrub that data. Then they're able to take the data, look at all the students involved, and that gives us real true demographic numbers, students receiving special services. It gives us all types of information. And what it allows them to do, too, is to conduct studies. So they could take students who are involved in a program, like you heard from past studies, and create control groups and do scientific-based research and compare them to students who aren't participating to see how well a program is performing. So it gets us that. One thing that I think is interesting that it allows us to collaborate more effectively, and we're talking about, we've heard challenges with the mapping and trying to map resources, mapping at the program level, where there's a variety of service providers out there. You saw 539 contracts with recreation alone, and that information comes to us only as good as the folks who are sending it, and then the minute they give it to us, it's outdated. So what we're able to do now going forward is to sort of reverse that mapping. Instead of looking at the program level, really dig deep into the individual level. So our hopes are that we could do stuff like add out of school time survey questions to student climate surveys, which will then, instead of trying to track what it looks like in the out of school landscape, will give us really definitive data. Who's participating, who's not, where are they, and what are some, and then we'll have some information about those students. So we're in a really good position, and I'm excited at what we're going to be able to do moving forward.
I am too, and I want to share this because I know that it matters to our community advocates who often hold us accountable. Our data sharing agreement honors everything in FERPA. So it's really important to say that our students, even the process that we used to use going through third party, we want our families and our parents to know that their kids' data is always protected. So while we have increased our ability to share across agencies at a district level, that student information remains protected.
Okay.
Also,
Yes.
just to give you a little bit more detail of what it is, we highlighted and took the great parts of the original MOU that was MCPS and Montgomery County Collaboration Council, where we used to come and have evaluation year data and then the impact study data. So that was left in this MOU to ensure that we could get that same information across all the programs
Okay.
that are listed.
So dare I ask, how does this work with the HHS programs?
I knew that question was coming. So there is a larger, and someone who's been here for a longer time can correct me, there's a larger umbrella MOU with DHHS, and that covers all of DHHS. And then there's kind of more specific IMOUs, which are attached to the umbrella MOU. So different divisions like public health services or school health services will have an IMOU, or child, adolescent, and school-based community health will have an IMOU, and that's kind of how it works. There are some areas for improvement and updates with those IMOUs, and we've been in the process of working with MCPS to do that.
Got it. Okay. And then the last question I'll have, and then I'll turn to my co-chairs and colleagues. The coordination piece is obviously, this was brought up in the presentation by Collaboration Council, that no one's funded to or there isn't adequate funding and staffing. I want you to elaborate if that's to coordinate all of this. And if maybe I don't want to misstate your view, but is that the opinion? And then if so, what would be required? Where's in your view, and others can chime in, to make sure, because even the issue we're just talking about, are the MOUs, like you said, it's voluntary, like libraries isn't here. We didn't talk about, MCPS didn't really talk about summer. Summer Rise is an out of school time program. It should be counted, so like, and other things, so what's the appropriate mechanism and the appropriate level of staffing to make sure that we're herding all the cats and bringing it all together?
So it's what I was mentioning earlier in talking about capacity. We were talking specifically about data. So we know that each agency is able to get together all their own data, but there is not a network specific specialist that can gather all that data, disaggregate that data, continue to gather the data from our smaller organizations and program partners. So that is where the lack of capacity for data collection sits. In terms of coordination, we have our team at the Collaboration Council. That's not an issue. The issue really is just around the data.
So what's needed? You're saying one person is needed to do that?
Yeah.
That would sit at the Collaboration Council, and that would be helpful?
It could sit at the Collaboration, it could sit at DG, it could sit at anyone.
Or somewhere.
Honestly, yes, it's somewhere.
It would sit somewhere to
But
do it.
one person, yeah.
Okay. Is that a shared view, that one person can solve that?
I do want to note that the Recreation Department does have administrative challenges on its internally, and I think that this will come up at future budget sessions. But administratively, even if there's a person collecting all the data, we still have to be able to pull it and manage all of the contracts and do that work. So the Recreation Department does have administrative challenges when it comes to contract management, data management.
Okay, so my ask, and I'm probably not going to speak again until the end because I'll let colleagues speak, is that the next time we come and before we meet, that there's a plan that you all agree on of what is required to get this data piece right. Because there's no way we can track who's in programs. We haven't even gotten to the quality piece of it yet. This is just getting people into programs. But obviously the quality piece follows on to that, because when you can have the data right, you can track if it's effective, as you said, and then you can move from there. So what is required both internally at your own agencies and at the coordination level to have the appropriate level of data management? Does that make sense? Like that, we need an answer to that, because it's hard for us to help if we don't know the answer to that question. And so, and you're not presenting it to us. Then we can talk about, we can afford it or we can't. But it's frustrating to me. If I had one thing I could do as a magic wand as a council member, it was get every student an out of school time after school program and a summer, something to do in the summer. Like that would be the thing. The top of my wish list, if I had a genie. And we know the data's there, so I need your help in answering that question, so we know when we get into the budget. So I'm gonna be more specific. Before we do the budget, can you all get together and decide? All I'm asking is decide on what would be required to track that? You're saying a specialist, you're saying internal data management. Can you all get together and come back with that? Is that clear? Yes? Okay. Thank you. Councilman Ravenhoff.
Thank you all. I'll start with the positive. It does warm my heart to see how many amazing programs are out there in recreation and through our key stakeholders. And I've seen the George B. Thomas Learning Academy now for 20 years. And Dr. Thomas is a good friend. So I just, a lot of really great things are happening. No question about it. No question about it. What Vice President Jawanda just described, we did used to have. And so there was this overall system building, MOU, coordination, and I appreciated Mr. Onby's walking back memory lane on the development of Excel Beyond the Bell, and it was the Collaboration Council, to their unending credit, that was the convener that facilitated both the public, private, and nonprofit sectors. And to be fair to them, they used to have a lot more state funding than they currently have right now. And but at the time, and this was 16 years ago, there was a robust budget. There were summits that were held, several of them over the course of several years, where key folks beyond just the people that are at this table who are amazing actively participated in the convening, and it led to the development of the Kids Count, which was appointment viewing for all out-of-school time providers and nonprofit organizations that worked with children, youth, and families. And at some point, and I don't know exactly when, we stopped doing that. And now we are where we are. And there is a lot to build off of. And I'm very much looking forward to rolling up my sleeves and doing what I can to help to get us back to where we once were, and to support the Collaboration Council's incredibly important work, because at the end of the day, they are in among the better positions because of the makeup of their board, which has representatives from all of the county agencies that directly serve children, youth, and families, that also has the ability to connect with the state in ways that sometimes the county is not as nimble and in a position to be able to do. And so I appreciate the recommendation that we need to once again designate a coordinating entity, but it's sort of back to the future. And so I think it's perfectly appropriate for the council to request a more formal, essentially proposal, that the executive branch, working with our key community stakeholders and the collaboration, come back to this body with. And you have all of us at hello. I mean, we all know personally the incredible value of out-of-school time programs and the impact they've had on us ourselves as well as our own kids. So we get it. And we know that the solution to so many of the challenges in front of us are right in front of us. We just have to coordinate it. And when we talk about the system building and the data collection, we don't let to have perfect be the enemy of the good. What we want and what you all want is to get to a point where we're flying less blind, where we know where the deserts are in programming, but more specifically, the types of programming. I so appreciated the comments about the cultural appropriateness of programming, because it is true. That our kids today have a wide myriad variety of needs and interests, and so that is critical. I will highlight one part of the presentation we didn't get to today, but maybe in the subsequent conversation I'd like to focus on moving forward. And Acting Director Clutter talked about this, but the quality of programming, it's really only as good as the staff that are on the ground providing that programming. You can have the best curriculum in the world, but if you don't have somebody who knows how to implement it and how to engage with youth and how to be authentic and meet them where they are, it's not going to be as productive. And so the investment that we're making in youth workforce development training, which the Collaboration Council highlighted, is also important. I remember vividly the trainings that they used to provide and continue to provide. And when we launched Excel Beyond the Bell, our bus drivers took advantage of those trainings. There were janitorial service workers taking advantage of those out-of-school time positive youth development trainings. We need to get back there. in a very comprehensive way. And obviously, all of that needs to be resourced. So those are just some general comments, but just a couple of specific questions. So when you look at the buckets of the plan, which make perfect sense, where does tracking variety of programming fall? Is that under quality, or does that need to be its own standalone bucket so that we are making sure we're providing programs that kids actually want to be able to participate in?
I would say that it would sit under quality and accessibility in both of those buckets.
I would agree to quality and accessibility. And I do want to shout out, because it's not necessarily in the package, but EBB has an evaluation metric for each of their providers and where that program is in a cycle, whether they are improving in their quality of programming or not. So it's not in this, because this is a lot, but I do want to know, I want you to know that it's there, because I look at it, I go through it, I look at it for our school by school. Back to your question about where does that fall, I think about that UMD program that wants to combine robotics and SEL, right? We had to think thoughtfully about where that program went. So the 5 schools. We knew one of those schools were going to be Loiterman, because Loiterman Middle School uniquely has a population of 70% girls. So to your point about where it falls, accessibility is one. So I would really strongly advocate for that in terms of where those buckets fall, because we do have some schools that have programming that already support, for example, robotics. If you're Clemente and you are the magnet for that, you may have more entree into that than a school like Loiterman that is performing arts. So interesting way to look at it.
I appreciate that. Final 2 questions, and I will probably get back in the queue, but I do think that we also need to bring philanthropy into this conversation at some point. And so in a subsequent conversation or in a part 3, I do think as we look at the funding models, because the sad reality is as we've all discussed and know, and it's the elephant in the room, we're entering into an extremely difficult budget year. And sadly, oftentimes our out-of-school time programs are not viewed from the lens that they should be, which is that these are programs that help mental health. These are programs that help with workforce development and all those key areas that we want to make sure we reinforce, and that they are helping to address the issue of truancy, which is a chronic problem across not just Montgomery County, but our entire country right now. So that's something that we're going to have to focus more on. And then finally, for now, I appreciated the last slide with the youth workforce development component of this, because having lived through the recession before, what will likely happen over the next several years is teens will have a harder time accessing jobs that normally would have been more accessible to teens, but more and more adults will be accessing because of the economy that we're in, which is a missed opportunity. And so I love the example of the partnership with our disability community and our TeenWorks kids, which is such a win-win. I remember vividly, we also had a technology program with our TeenWorks kids where they were teaching our aging adults how to use technology, and what a win-win that was. And I remember, forget this senior citizen who used FaceTime for the first time, and it connected with a nephew he hadn't seen in 15 years and saw him physically on his phone, and he thought we had discovered fire. And so there's a lot more that we can be doing, but thank you all very much. I will likely get back in the queue.
Life-saving programs. Councilmember Friesen.
Thanks. Good news, bad news. Good news, amazing programs that are happening, as we just heard from Councilmember Albornoz, and I think that's really great. I think the bad news is it doesn't feel like we're really that much further along 7 months later almost than we were back in the spring. And what we had asked for hasn't been done. The MOU hasn't been signed. The data sharing doesn't seem like it's happening at the level that we want. The pages are screaming at us for the frustration. One of the things that I had suggested and requested besides the MOU was when we have these presentations, we should be at a point where Collaboration Council or one entity is sharing the data for everybody. And we're nowhere close to that. In fact, we're in the exact same place as we were in April. A lot of meetings, a lot of discussions, a consultant's been hired, a bunch of committee sessions, subcommittee sessions. But it's not clear to me we're even moving in that direction. And that's the point. That's the whole idea. And so the challenge that I have is we have seemingly really focused in the last many years on program expansion, but not on system building at all. And the conversation we're supposed to be having here, the conversation that I thought we had our moment, our frustrating, challenging, difficult conversation in a public setting back in the spring, was to say, okay, we got everybody in the room. We realized nobody was talking to each other. We realized we're not really moving in the right direction. We're not even sure which direction we're going in. Let's course correct. And it feels like there's some conversations that are happening, but there isn't a strategic framework for moving in a particular direction. It's just not very clear to me. And so I just want to express that. I really hope that this MOU is done before Thanksgiving. I would ask that if it's not, that we get some notification by 5 o'clock on Wednesday that says what the status is and why it's not done. So I'd formally request that. But I'm not even sure, based on what we heard today, that the MOU is really going to solve the problem. I actually was more optimistic in the spring that the MOU was one of the main challenges. It seems pretty clear that even after the MOU is signed, that's only one little piece of it, and it's not even clear what the HHS piece is. It's not clear what Collaboration Council's role is going to be after the MOU is signed. So, and I'm happy to hear if anybody has a response to that, of what change the MOU is going to do, or how that moves us forward. But it wasn't clear in today's presentation of how we get to that singular place where we don't have to go through an hour and 40 minutes of presentations from the different departments. We're all doing great work, but it's not clear how it all works together. The data collection challenge, that's not clear to me as well. There were 9 responses, right? From this was launched on November 6th, so just a couple weeks ago. 9 responses. How many of those responses were public agencies or departments? One. Which one?
MCPS OST department.
MCPS. Is there an issue with Department of Recreation or HHS?
Sure. I think one of the things is this tool that had been presented was still in the, I want to say, the testing phase. There were a lot of recommendations that were shared that I think probably need to be ironed out as we look at this. This is a brand new tool, a brand new process for collection. And I think as we, come back and pilot where we're at, I think there needs to be an understanding of the, what requirements Health and Human Services and Recreation as county government agencies can and can't do, or the complexities behind it. But I think moving forward, and I know it's not where we wanted to be today, and the MOU is certainly not the end-all be-all. I mean, that's for certain. But I think there's a couple of things that are really concrete moving forward that we know. And, the Collaboration Council, being the point, I think that one of the things that's notable here that we probably didn't highlight as well, and I think Councilmember Albanaz started to discuss it a little bit, is that we could do all of these great things, but if we don't build the system in terms of the quality of providers and helping those organizations build economies of scale. So I think that's one place that there's a lot of focus on that we just didn't present well on that today. So helping the providers with training, economies of scale, being able to sustain themselves. So whether it's through contracts with the varying agencies or to be able to apply for grant funding so that everyone is not 100% relying on county government. It's through acts of philanthropy. And again, I think the big piece that we sort of tapped on a little bit, but Collaboration Council being this incubator, so to speak, for a lot of these nonprofit organizations and local small businesses. As we continue to grow to meet the demand, we have to have those organizations that are ready to deliver quality programs. They're doing that. But a key point is when we make those agreements, when we bring them in and train them, singing to the same sheet music starts with each and every one of those individual contracts. And between the organizations and MCPS and Health and Human Services and Collaboration Council, we're talking about a lot of contracts, thousands of contracts. And so creating the data points with the shared outcomes, it doesn't start with the collection point. It starts with the point of how we write those agreements and making sure that we're, and I say, use that analogy, singing to the same sheet music, but we're working on that now. I know the Collaboration Council has done a lot of work around what they mean by the language is what are those identifiable performance measures, and County Stats also here today to help us, to listen, to help us move forward and work with all of the HHS, Recreation, and then we'll certainly connect with Office of Shared Accountability so we can create those points of measurement so that when we do that, when we come back and we go, okay, we got to turn in our data, we'll be able to do that more comprehensively. And so I would say less focus on the tool that we were piloting and more focus on this piece of the puzzle.
Do you want to add anything to that?
No, just that we have been in conversations, and I've been in conversations with my other colleagues at HHS about doing just that type of contract review. A lot of these contracts have been around for years and really haven't been updated or modified to meet kind of the services that they're actually providing now. So that's been kind of the focus of our work whenever there's a contract up for renewal, to relook at that, really put in that strong language and do a lot of that TA with the provider so that they're able to meet the demands of the new contract. And on our end, there's no issue in doing the data tool. It's, it's just been a couple weeks that it's been out.
What's Six Tool Solutions' role in this? We hired them. They've given us some advice. What's their role?
We had
up to this point and moving forward.
So last fiscal year, Six Tool Solutions was on contract with the Collaboration Council. This year, they are not. Shanae Tate Pimentel's participation is simply as the board chair of most, a member of the African American Advisory Committee or group, and a parent. So they're currently not on contract, but they do support the network.
Okay. The whole point here is to have data that can analyze what we're doing, how well we're doing, not just quantitatively, as we heard earlier, but qualitatively. The whole idea would be the same benefit to philanthropy as it would be to county government, to decide where should we put our dollars, what's making the impact, what works and what doesn't work. And it doesn't mean that only one program gets funded, but it could mean that we know for this population of people in this part of the county, this is something that works, and we're going to fund it. And in this part of the county, for this population, we know that this works, and we're going to fund that. And we know that in this part of the county, for this population, it doesn't work. And so we're going to stop funding it. And I just don't think we have that. Right now, it seems like every different organization has their own standards for what they collect and how they collect it. And you can put together a nice presentation, and you can share it with a group of people or with the council and say, this is what we're doing. And it's not all really that helpful, unfortunately. And it doesn't mean that great work isn't happening. It just means that we can't really analyze in any way that we can make meaningful systems-based funding decisions. And it would be impossible to go to, a large foundation philanthropically and say, we've done the analysis, we've looked at all of the, programs that we have. Here's what we know works, and here's why we want you to invest a significant amount of money in it. And similarly, it's hard for us to make the case in tight budget dynamics. Here's what we know is working and here's what isn't working. And so we're going to, direct funds, redirect funds, make those decisions. It just feels to me that we're still in a little bit of a turf war here of everybody likes their own programs and likes how they collect their own data and likes, how they do their own contracts. And, we'll get pulled and pushed and, ultimately we'll agree to an MOU that doesn't really solve a problem. And there sounds like there's not one MOU that we're talking about here. There's a lot of MOUs, and whether they even solve the problem is unclear to me. I think that's the challenge that we have to get to. So if the tool isn't the answer, and it sounds like it's not, then we got to figure out what the answer is. And we got to figure out how do we get to the point where we're setting up the contracting in a standardized way so that we can collect the data in a standardized way, who is responsible for what, and ensuring that those who are responsible have access. that's the game. And it feels like we are nowhere close to that after 7 months, unless I'm missing something.
I think that gives us a good focus point. I think where we've been scratching the surface but haven't been directing our focus, I think that this group can go back. We can look at that language, to your point, and come back to the table with some shared measures to because it starts with writing those agreements. It starts, those are the folks that are delivering the service for us. And I think we can look at that and come back and answer that question for you.
I'll close on it. We have to get to that point, and until we get to that point, I don't think any of this matters. And I really think if we're going to come back, I don't think we can have a proposal for what to fund unless we have an agreement of what we're going to do. And to me, 8 responses from outside entities, 1 response from a public entity. If we can't even get the public side of this on the same page, we're never going to be able to figure out what are the outside organizations that are doing this work and work coordinated in a coordinated way with them. So we got to get our own house in order here. We got to figure out, how to address these issues, and we got to do it quickly because we have to make funding decisions and we have to make policy decisions and we have to make sure that we're not leaving young people who need our help behind. Lots more questions, lots more concerns, but I'll yield back, and I appreciate the work.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Just to crystallize, I appreciate Councilor Friedson's point. The attempt of asking for what capacity do you need to get to a point where you can have an agreement on what is required to go forward, that they're connected issues, right? Like you sign the MOU, that's great, but who's going to, who's on first, right? Who's charged with owning and driving as a project manager the overarching plan, right? Of how we get all of our young people into high quality, how we track the quality. So there's the quality issue, the availability issue, knowing where the equity issues, right? Who's in the data sharing issue to get to all that? Who's going to help us shepherd that? Right, and obviously Collaboration Council has a role, but that's part of what we need to hear back. In addition to the points that Councilman Friedson brought up, Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez.
Thank you. I'm going to be very brief. Appreciate the questions and comments that were said. I'm not going to repeat them, but I wholeheartedly endorse them. Let's just put it that way. 2 things. For the next time you come, let's just looking ahead, okay? And I love you all. Thank you for putting my daughter in 2 photos here in this presentation. You probably have no idea, but she's the cute one. No, I'm playing. But yeah, she was there in 2 photos. I am looking forward, next time you come, besides everything that had been said, I think I need to still understand how can we get the children or the students that are not participating after school. I need to understand why they're not doing that and how can we get them involved. Because when you say to me that, I'm looking at a slide, I think it's circle page 36, when you're talking about measuring what matters and all the kids who participate in EBB, that they have higher average MPA, blah, 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 that's all good. But they tend to be the kids who are like, going to class, getting straight A's. Those are the kids. I know, because my kids go to EBB. I want to know how can we get the other kids that are not involved. So that's one data point that I need, and it takes people and the principals of the schools to be highly involved to understand what's happening in the school. That cannot be done by you. That has to be done by the school system, looking at the MCPS. So that's one thing that I need. And the second thing that I think it was Councilmember Albornoz, or maybe it was Council Vice President, one of them said it, the issue with philanthropy, because we cannot pay it all. And in Montgomery County, we're so proud to have all these different companies and top 500 companies, really amazing places in the county. How can we get them engaged? how, not just about getting their money, we want their money, but how can we get them engaged in a way that they can see that they have a social responsibility of building the next generation, their next workforce, and that involves especially starting in I'm gonna say middle school, not even gonna say elementary school, but middle school. How can we get, United Therapeutics, Marriott, all the big guys around here to ensure that they're investing in our schools. That is so important and it's nowhere here. And then once you finally have that MOU signed, he's saying before Thanksgiving, I hope so. I'm betting Christmas. And I also want to see how we can get park and planning. The Parks Department has so many amazing after-school programs. They're the ones that my kids go to those ones because of the parks facility. Their data needs to be included here too. So that should be part two. So they're just comments. I'm gonna drop it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Really good points. Councilmember Make.
Thank you. Agree with everything that has been said about the positive programs that we have ongoing and growing, as well as the desperate need for data and a true gap analysis. I know, that all said, I think a lot of us know where a lot of these gaps are because we have lived here for a while. And I know, I've been asking for maps to show, to represent where we have programming and where we don't, since I came into office, but that's namely because we all know that we are in the midst of righting historic inequities in after-school programming, as well as many other types of investment in the East County. And so I know that those maps will help me advocate for what my district needs and what my district deserves. I was excited to see the MCPS maps. Thank you, Jennifer Granados, for putting that together. I was excited to see a map, and thank you to the out-of-school time office at MCPS for putting those together. I did a little bit of comparison just sitting here and saw that in one example, looking at the elementary schools, looking at, in District 5, we have 17 elementary schools. 11 of them are community schools. In just pulling one district, District 4, there's 18 similar 18 elementary schools, and only 5, as opposed to 11, are community schools. But there are more than twice as many students being served in those programs there. On high schools, District 2 and District 5 both have 5 high schools. There are no community schools in District 2. There are 3 in District 5, several hundred more students being served in District 2. This is only MCPS, so it's not the full picture. We have a team in front of us, and I know that the idea is for everybody to be working together to fill the gaps that we are also working to identify in a quantitative way. But I think it is also representative of the work that we have to do in East County. So given the fact that we don't have clear data necessarily to do a true gap analysis, what metrics or what methods are currently being used by each agency or by the group as a whole to determine what schools and what areas to expand into? And how are we ensuring equity is being built into that?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. For programs like Excel Beyond the Bell, we use it for more than programs like Excel Beyond the Bell, but that's the best example. We work with County Stat. We have a tool that we've used for some time called a Strategic Program Index, and it looks at a number of things. It looks at test scores. It looks at school readiness. So that might be, is there space available in the school that we're looking to go into? What other programs are in the school? It looks at a number of factors, and we use that tool to then determine where the next best place to put resources is.
Thank you.
So for HHS, I know a lot of our programs look at farms rates for different schools to determine, especially for those school-based programs like Bridges to Wellness or high school wellness centers, where those should go. For some of our out-of-school time programs and some of our programs From the positive youth development realm, we do a lot of collaboration with the communities themselves. We have teams on the ground to see what's going on, and they have the ability to quickly kind of divert resources or teams to where they need to be, and also working closely with our colleagues at MCPS. So there is data-informed decisions being made, and also looking at kind of our youth risk behavioral surveillance system data as well, and the zip codes associated with where we're seeing the highest risk.
Thank you.
Going down the line, for community schools, it's a little bit different because it's based off of our budgeting when they get per pupil funds. But one of the things that we have done in the past couple of years is no matter what year it was, we gave them the opportunity to participate with the Giving Square for the Kids for Kids, the Kids for Kids Fund, and also the Kids for Kids Info, which is a philanthropy after school program that allows them to learn what it means to be a philanthropist. And so we give that opportunity to all of the community schools. This year we're doing all of the new community schools to make sure that they have that opportunity. And the one way that we decide what other programming is, they do it based off of the needs assessment. That is a requirement in their first year to complete. That is for MSDE. And with that needs assessment, it has a student survey that lets us drill down into what are the areas of programming that the students want, the families need, and then the staff needs. And from that is right now what I'm working on is releasing a request for proposal, or RFP, to ensure that we are maximizing out all of the enrichment opportunities, no matter how big or small, within the county. And then they will be able to select directly from those different vendors. And they are going to be in that RFP around geographic area. We want to make sure that those that are wanting to work with us for out of school time know exactly the geographic areas that they can cover and support, and have a connection to those communities as well.
I'm sorry, the RFP is for someone to do data around it, or for somebody to provide?
It would be to be a vendor for our community schools to select to have for out of school time. Okay. And then that would go into some data pieces as well in that RFP.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
In addition to the heat map that you are interacting with and looking where there are gaps, it gives us a very clear example. We are looking to upgrade it to include some demographic data, so we're able to see a more deeper story as who we're serving in these areas, and then giving us opportunities to partner like we are with community schools, with newer community schools that have less funding, to try to build up programming. In regards to the George B. Thomas Learning Academy, we are in the process of receiving an evaluation through MCPS to look at our effectiveness and be able to compare our data of success to non-participants and participants in our program, which will give us a lot of data about the quality of the program and how we're meeting the needs of students academically.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate. Anybody want to add anything? Thank you. I appreciate that, and it's interesting to hear the different methodologies that are happening across our squad here, and look forward to hearing updates about how all of these pieces come together, especially as we have when we have a true gap analysis. I was interested to hear about the America After 3 p.m. survey, because that was like the first number that I saw attached to how many students are there who don't have access to an after-school program, but their parents want them to have access. It was a statewide number, 422,000 children, and it was based. Took a quick look at it. Is based on a survey, and a phone survey, and I think that we can do better than that, given that we have the real numbers within our county. But that those numbers are being found in some fashion. We can come up with something. We need something that we can use, and that we can combine with all the other layers of our understanding of the community. I wanted to come back to one of the forward-looking initiatives that was mentioned, because one of the major issues in my district that I'm seeing is around youth violence. And there are many, many positive outcomes to out-of-school time programming, but we know that one of the issues that we're going to see when we don't have out-of-school time programming is we're going to see those idle hands. We're going to see rises in youth violence. And I have been seeing that throughout my district and in certain key hotspots. And and it feels really wrong to be seeing that happen, know that there are kids who will tell me that they want somewhere to be after school, and instead they are left getting into conflicts between, this group and that group and multiple groups. And at this point, I'm seeing at the Enclave, for example, there will be whole weeks or more where there are fights happening there after school, that we're on one of those trends right now. Like, we know that it's going to happen. And the police and the street outreach network, they can't get there in time before, the kids disperse, because the kids know how that works. And so, as we watch this unfold, this is, we have responsibility for this. We know that it's because they're not somewhere else. They don't have access to the kind of programming that they need to get them out of that situation. The parents are asking me, the kids are asking us, and I've got kids now who are involved in the criminal justice system as a result. I have kids who are injured, who are harmed, who have gone to the hospital. This is urgent. Like, I need after school programming that these kids can get to. I need it. And so I was heartened to hear about programming, regional community-based programming that is specifically tailored to address that, and that being an initiative that's a priority. And I think that it's not, we don't always like to talk about it. It's much more fun to talk about making sure our kids are successful in school. But this is just, it's happening. We have to be real about it. We have to fix it. This is just a baseline requirement. So I wondered, Ms. Keenest, if you could talk a little bit more about that.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for talking about that. So I know our formerly PYD team is now called the Community and Youth Violence Prevention and Intervention Program, which really allows, I think, the name to target the work that they do. Luis Cardona is here, our senior administrator for the program. So, we've seen, I think, major successes when we really partner with our community-based organizations who are in the communities and doing the work that we need to be done. So not outside entities coming through, but really going into the communities and offering the services and support to those youth when they need it. But like you said, that does still leave a gap between when, kids maybe leave school to when they're commuting home to when there's not any kind of supervision for them. When that is the case, I know our Street Outreach Network team works very closely with our school administrators and our principals, and they have really close relations with many of the schools, so that when a school administrator sees that there may be something brewing or on the horizon, I know Luis and his team always say, don't call us after the fact, call us when you see that there could be an issue there. And that's something that we've been trying to hone in on more closely with our MCPS colleagues as well, is to do more of that prevention and intervention and not necessarily the background work. But with that said, I think we have a lot more work to do. And I think the ability to bring in our community partners who are, really doing that great on the grounds work is where we're looking to expand to be a little bit more nimble and flexible to the needs of the community when they need it.
Thank you. And I appreciate you mentioning that, because in previous sessions, I have asked MCPS to come up with some clear protocols and some clear regulations around when the Street Outreach Network should be brought in on the early side, because I think that provides the principals, with not only a clear understanding, but also some cover that if the Street Outreach Network is here, it doesn't mean that things are down the toilet. It means we're starting very, very early to make sure that kids are building those good relationships. And at any sign of a conflict, we're going to be on the front end of it. I think we have to make sure that there's not a stigma there, and probably some regulations and some clear guidance for all principals will be helpful in that.
Yeah, and I know that our team has also proactively reached out to MCPS with kind of some of that information on when would be a good time to contact Street Outreach Network. But like you said, I still think that there's some relationship forming or, information building we could do with some high schools that may see Sun as maybe more of a threat than kind of an asset to their community.
Thank you. Thank you. With the permission of the chair, could we bring up Mr. Cardona to hear about an example of successful, briefly, type of programming that could work to reduce youth violence in some of these most difficult communities?
Yeah, briefly, I think I want to get to Councilmember Sales. I know that's it's directly connected to out of school time. Do you have something you want to share briefly, Mr. Cardona? Or you feel okay? There you go. Press the button. There you go. Thank you.
Luis Cardona for the record, Senior Administrator for the, and I'm still trying to get used to it myself, the Community and Youth Violence Prevention and Intervention Program. So one of the things that really comes to mind is something that we did thanks to the support of our Youth Wellness Initiative, and that is that we moved several of our programs, specifically our Youth Opportunity Centers, to be focused directly in the community. So as opposed to the young people who kind of have those high risk factors coming to us, we now target the services directly in the side of male community, for instance. And that includes the Youth Opportunity Center, it includes the Safe Space program that the Street Outreach Network does there every weekend, and also includes a lot of the work that our good brother Joe Hooks does in Club 480 with that after-school soccer program that he's been doing thanks to funding from the Collaboration Council and other entities, including the county. And so what you see there is a community that has been so saturated with supports that if you look at the data, and our data manager who's in the back, Alexandra, pulled some really good data that really showcase the differences and the reductions in crime involving young people under the ages of 24, to the extent even in September there wasn't a single arrest in that community at all. And so it's not necessarily just about funding. I think it's also about what we are willing to do, what our intent is to meet the community where it's at. And you can't take out the importance of the collaboration, because the HOC has been a real great partner. They have really worked very closely with us and say, hey, look, you do whatever you need to do. And so, I mean, even this, I just got an email from Identity this week where they had a huge cross-section of parents at a community meeting that focused on behavioral health needs. Many programs in this county are struggling to get parents because of the reality that we're living in right now. But somehow, because we accommodated the community and went straight to them, it made it so much easier. And at least those parents, you know, feel more comfortable and trust the partners, like Lori said.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing that. Councilmember Sales.
Thank you. I won't repeat what my colleagues have already said. You know, I went through the packet and I sent over a lot of questions prior, and just want to, you know, reiterate the need for data collection and consistency across programming. And, you know, now Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez mentioned parks. And, you know, when I first joined the council, I believe lots of you attended the 5-part meeting series that I hosted last year for safe and vibrant communities. And we had our public safety officials, we had our youth leaders, and, you know, our community partners and community members come together to talk about ways to ensure that we are preventing more students from entering the criminal justice system. And my thought was, let's compile all the programs into an app, because all the kids have, you know, cell phones and they have access to it. I was working with TEBS to try and compile how many after-school programs do we have across the county. And, you know, they sent a list of like 1,000 programs. And we went to TEBS to talk about these programs and how could we track and monitor these programs, and how can we have students access these programs more easily. And they said, we're going to need one person to even track and monitor the programs because they change every season. You know, that alone, just talking about how many contracts we have between MCPS and our community partners was so extensive. And then the amount of money that we're spending, and then what outcomes are we even looking for? And while we're thinking about out of school time, I can't ignore the fact that, you know, my daughter's graduated, but since I moved here, we've gone from the achievement gap to the opportunity gap. Now we're hearing that math and reading scores are at an all-time low, and we're trying to invest in money to ensure not only are our kids safe while they're in school but out of school, but also are they graduating on time? What are the truancy rates associated with the students participating in these programs? And so before we even talk about an MOU, I was surprised to see a lack of disaggregated data across these four entities evaluating what you're currently doing, because the numbers show you are doing a lot of work, but to not be able to track, monitor, and evaluate what you're doing and who you're helping and how it's helping our students is concerning. And it's a failure on our part that we haven't created consistent metrics for each of our programs to be evaluated on. But at a time in our county where we know that there's an increasing deficit of funds at the state, at the federal level, we know that there's going to be even more limited funds next year. We already know that the state's going to be cutting a lot because no one's going to be thinking about raising taxes in a challenging budget year. And so while we're trying to help our students, we know that these are the programs that we are concerned that will be on the line when it comes to which budget line items are we going to cut, because we don't have any outcome data about what's actually working and what's actually moving the needle for our students. We can't even envision new programs to come online because we don't even know what's working currently for our students. And so before we even talk about an MOU or signing anything, it would be helpful to understand where agreement aligns on what metrics we want to even evaluate and can evaluate and track and monitor across all programs. I think once we get on the same page about that, then we can start talking about what that looks like across each program and what that would look like in an MOU. I think the MOU is premature. And I looked at the 4-part plan. I know that we're behind, and it doesn't even matter that, we're here at this point. What matters is that we are in agreement on what we are going to track, monitor, and evaluate first and foremost. Once we go there, then we can see what that looks like across all of these programs. But until we start with what we're going to be monitoring, I don't think an MOU even makes sense. We already have people talking about the bureaucracy of government and how convoluted this will become if we dump everything into one bucket and then tell someone, go evaluate it and tell us what's working and what's not working. Tell us who's being served and who's not being served. I think we first need consistency. And once we go there, I look forward to talking about how we align all of our missions and objectives, our staffing, and all the dollars that are being spent. But until we have agreement there, I don't think there's much else for us to discuss. I did have one question about, because during our HHS meeting, we learned that the Evening Resource Center, which is a significant impact on justice-involved youth, was closed. And just wanted to find out if there's been any advocacy since its closure and what, if any, programs have replaced that at all.
I would have to get back with you on that one.
Okay, all right. And then, okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. As you're hearing, there's a lot to do here. I was looking back in the packet and counting how many of the meetings on this topic I've been in since they started, and it's quite a few. We going back to 2021. I've been on the council since 2018. There's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this would be 8 meetings on this topic with various forms of committees. But I've always been on education and culture, and I've always been on planning, housing, parks, and fed. So I've been in all of those, and the 19th and 20th council. And this is so fundamental. And I know you all know this because you're running around like you're on fire to produce programs, and you come back and all of these things in isolation. We've grown EBB. We know it's effective. We've grown it. We get lobbied every budget year. There's an analysis. The wellness centers we know are important. We know certain programs work. So we've been making progress. The problem is just we haven't stopped and figured out the structure so that we can do it more efficiently and effectively. And at a time now where we have to do that, we're kind of at a have to moment. It's not a nice to anymore. The resources are going to be constricted. We had that presentation earlier. The challenges are at an all-time high, as Councilmember Mink and others emphasized. I often talk about this distinction between being a destination kid and a decision kid. I was a destination kid. I went to my mom's job. It was my free after-school program. And thank God the CEO let me run around. But a lot of my friends were decision kids. They decided every day where they were going to go, and some were good choices and many were bad, and some are gone because of that. And so it's literally a life and death thing, and I know you guys know that. I'm going to use a teaching tool here. What have you heard? What's the next step in your mind to come back to us with? What have you? And I'm going to ask that I'm going to start with Collaboration Council. What is the next most positive step based on what you've heard today to move this work forward? In addition to, we already said you're going to let us know by next week about the MOU, but that's only a tool to enable the broader work, right? It's an important tool because you can't do all the stuff if you don't know who's where, but that's just one agency MOU. Yes.
Yeah, I think the next time we come back, what would be helpful is to have an understanding of what the data capacities are for the network, and then also have metrics identified of what we want to measure for this network. If that's the short and the sweet.
Anyone else want to chime in on that?
Yeah, I always want to chime in.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah.
So I want to state that, as a school system, when we're talking about who is participating where, that's not really a question, right? We have so many different metrics that measure that. I think what we are talking about in this broader group is how that all comes together for out of school time altogether. And I can see how that would be different because different agencies measure different things, different outcomes. I heard one of you guys say, and that's part of the challenge that makes it difficult. So I think as a network or as a group, being clear and being honest about what the scope is, right? So I think we nod our heads a lot, yes, this would be great, we agree. But the reality of the scope is really important. There are kids that we don't track in a specific way because of HIPAA if they're receiving therapy. There is information we might not share this way because of that. And I think we just have to be honest about that. I don't think any of us have responded back to, yes, we can, or no, we can't do this particular piece. I also recognize that OST goes beyond a lot of what is in the school system. We're a contained entity, but OST serves kids up to age 24. So coordinating what a community center can share versus what a school system can share, there are limitations on that. And so I think to what Sydney said, that's the end game, but also I think a little bit of honesty is required. A lot of times I sat here thinking, not sure we can do that, right? And I think we should be able to say that if that's the truth of it. So I'm saying that.
Well, what can you, because that's what I thought this whole strategic planning process was for. Ramona Bell Pearson, I know she's retired, but she was the one that was leading this in some of my early meetings. And Cup isn't even here today.
Right. So what?
So I'm with you, but what are those things? That's what we asking you to define. When Councilor Alvarez and I say bring a plan, you need to tell us, scope it out. I know you can't do everything, but we need you to help us frame that the right way. So go ahead. What were you going to say?
Okay, I was going to say we can share what and where, but we'll get back.
That would be
and
part
think
of the
about it.
feedback. Yes, scope it out. Tell us what and where, and then highest value, and let's on the same page on the metrics. All that stuff. We have to. Yeah. Go ahead, Adrian. Were you trying to? I'm sorry. Hope. Go ahead.
Okay. Because you asked the question, what as a teaching tool, what do we take from this? And what I'm taking from this and just learning is this actually needs to be an interagency group. I would say staff, because if we really want to do some of this, we need some people who are literally, to Councilmember Sales, someone who's doing data, someone who's doing legal, someone who's leading the charge, and someone who's going to speak
Great.
to all of those.
That's what I
things.
asked for at the very beginning. Present me
Yes.
that plan of who's doing that. If the Collaboration Council is not doing it, or needs support in doing it, I know you said you need some support. Like, I want to know who's the entity that's going to do that, and what are the components of that to get it done, and then what are the shared goals and metrics to get there. Go ahead, Adrian.
Yeah, I think, there's going to be some figuring out for sure. And I think this group is committed. We have really strong relationships. I think the immediate tangibles that are possible, like what can we do now? I heard the sense of urgency. And I'm going to go back to being able to get some, it sounds simplistic, but it's important, getting some questions on the student climate survey. Yeah. Because when we talk about, getting all the out-of-school time providers in the county together, we don't even know who they all are. We forget people like MSI, the ones that just off sports are on my mind, the Bethesda baseball.
Yeah, sure.
We can go down the list, and we're forgetting all of those. So we got to get back and we got to ask the students.
Another reason CUF is important.
Yeah, CUF, and then we can go back to all the OLO reports. But when we can ask the students, are you participating, whether it's in extracurricular with the school, out of school? We forgot all the faith-based institutions that are out there. So many out-of-school time programs. So when we can get back to asking the students, are you participating? And if not, and what are some barriers? I think that can give us some of the instant mapping, but flipping the script. I think we tried the other. It wasn't without effort for sure, but I think that will give us some of the tangibles that we can immediately see the gaps. And I think some of the things that we can come to agreement with pretty quickly are some of the metrics around what should be in all of these contracts, or what should we be included. Again, county stats here, they've been really instrumental in working with each of the organizations in the past. I think that is something that we can come to the table with pretty quickly, and get moving along in this arena.
I appreciate that. Go ahead, and then I'm going to turn to my co-chairs and we're going to close out.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I think across all of our programs, we all track outcome data, and I think we have the data there. It's just, leaning on Collaboration Council, identifying folks from our team who can come together to really bring that together. Because I think once we see the outcome data, the zip codes, the schools that we're serving, all the information is there. It's just making it in a way that's digestible to see those gaps, to see what outcomes, this type of program serves, or what type of outcomes you can get from this program. And I think we have the puzzle pieces there. It's just having the time and the effort and the entity to coordinate all of those different pieces and put it together.
Got it. Well, you're hearing from all of us, and I can guarantee you we represent our colleagues that aren't here, that this is something that they're going to care about. I'm going to turn to Councilman Friedson and then Councilman Robinhouse to close us out at his last meeting.
Yeah, appreciate it. Respectfully, I don't think all the puzzle pieces are there and it's just a matter of putting them together. If that were the case, the committees and the subcommittees and whatever the heck's been going on over the last 7 months would have solved the problem. I just want to be totally honest about it. I think we keep talking around the real dynamics here. I agree that everybody is tracking something. The problem is you're not tracking the same thing. That's the point. That's the problem. That's the solution we have to find. And we have to come together. And it really does feel like we're ending the conversation in the way in which we started it, which is a bunch of different silos doing their own thing. And that's just not going to work. It's not going to cut it. So that is what I hope we come back with. MOUs are words on paper. They really don't mean a whole lot. I hope that gets signed. I hope that that is part of the conversation of how this begins to be addressed. There is really good work that is happening, but it is not coordinated. It is not consistent. It is not clear how we measure it all in the same way. That's what we need to solve. We got to be moving in the same direction here, and we got to get out of the turf dynamic of one county department does it, Collaboration Council does this, MCPS does that, our outside partners are doing something else. That shouldn't matter. There are a lot of organizations doing incredible work. I think we can get to them next. That's the hard stuff. The easy stuff should be figuring out what the heck we're doing. Everybody here knows everybody here. So let's figure it out. I mean, it's hard enough to figure out exactly what all the different groups, some of which we forget, as you noted, some of which are not going to be included, some of whom are hard to reach. It shouldn't be hard to reach ourselves. Like, if we can't get the government and different public agencies to coordinate together, to communicate together, to share data as appropriate, to get on the same page of how data is collected, then I don't know how we make the case to the public or to philanthropy or to anybody else of how we invest in these programs. This is the case that we need to make to justify what we're doing. And then to be able to expand the good work that we're doing. This is how we honor the work that is being done by the folks who are every single day out there inspiring our kids, who are sacrificing everything to do this work as opposed to work that could pay a lot more money or could allow them to do different things because they care so deeply about it. We're not doing them the service that we need to do because we're not collecting the data that proves how effective they are. So I hope that when we come back to have this conversation, that we really think through the way in which we are siloed and we break down those silos, we get on the same page, we focus to start just on the public side of this. Because it seems like we're setting up portals, we're going out to the external partners, we're trying to figure out, how we're going to, figure out what they're doing, and we haven't even figured out what we're doing. And that's the part that I think is the biggest missing piece. I appreciate all the work. I know everyone is working hard. The question is, are we working together? And I don't think right now we are, and I think we've got to get on the same page, and I hope when we come back we will be.
Thank you, Councilman Friedson. Adrian, you said something that was important. I'm going to turn to Councilman Ravenaz. You can come back relatively quickly with shared metrics. You said that to me, correct?
I'm gonna say, I think with the help of county stat, I think there could be some common language around that, and I don't want to misspeak on behalf of the group.
Well, I'm just saying, if people agree, does everyone agree that that's a good, achievable interim goal?
Yes, the what, where, who, absolutely, I think so.
Yeah, I think how much, how well, better off.
Okay, got it. And then, obviously, you talked about some heat mapping stuff, and you're going to get this MOU signed. Council member and Chair Alvarez to close us out.
All right, thanks. I will try to be mercifully brief here because I know everybody's got to get to a bunch of stuff tonight. So, a couple thoughts. One, I had a similar reflection to Council Vice President Jawando, flashing back to the 8 sessions that I've had on this side of the aisle. Here's what's good news. It's consistently the same people in the last 3 meetings. And that's significant because in all those sessions, if you think about it, it's been different players at the table each and every time. And so I have a lot of faith in this incredible group of professionals in front of us because I know how hard each of you work and how creative each of you are. So that's a good thing. The second thing is, obviously, the next time we come back, I will be sitting on a different side of the aisle. Yeah, right. And I'm looking forward to it, very much looking forward to it, because there have been numerous instances in which we have been able to coordinate these types of activities where you've got multiple county agencies, multiple stakeholders trying to do all collective work and do the system building we've been talking about. I'll give you 2 very specific examples of where we've done that significantly well recently. The Office of Food System Resilience, which has a coordinating entity who is helping to facilitate those those group meetings, but there's somebody who is helping to convene and track the data at a high level and helping to empower the organizations that are on the ground level. And the other, which we're still in the middle of, but we've made a lot of progress in, and is in early childhood and education. And now we have a designated coordinating entity, and it's been bumpy figuring out who's on first in that instance, but we've made a lot of progress there as well. And so those two examples, plus the specific example of us having done exactly what we're describing, but 14 years ago, is what I will try to help bring to the table. And I look forward to those conversations and meetings. I have a high degree of confidence that we're going to come back with a more cohesive and a plan that we can describe more effectively to not just members of this body, but to our constituents and our residents, which will help this body be in a better position to not just continue to fund individual programs, that's important, but to make sure that it's all going in the same direction with the same overarching goals. So a lot more to come, but I will be meeting individually with all of you very soon over some coffees and some good Mexican food. I love tacos. And we will be in touch in the very near future. And I look forward to coming back to this body, and I look forward to working even more closely than I already am with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Arbanaz. I'm excited you'll be on the other side of the table, and you're getting your charge from your colleagues here too. Thank you for all that you're doing. I want to end on a high note. We heard from most that we're ahead of the rest of the state. Again, not where we want to be, but I'm just, the fact that we're trying to do this, we just have to do it better because we know what's at stake, and I know we're going to get there. So thank you, and we'll look forward to hearing back from you very soon. With that, we are adjourned.